Hello, and welcome everybody to The Hole in the World, an actual play of The Invisible Sun, a game by Monty Cook Games. I am once again joined by my amazing cast members. Starting on my left on screen, that would be playing the lovely Gavriel.
Hey, it's Marcy, aka Experimental Madness, playing Gavriel Glinsky, the iconoclast ardent apostate who hosts a choir.
And to her right, and my right on the stream, playing Twig.
It's me. All right. Hi, I'm Hopper. I play Twig, the mendicant gallant apostate who eats knowledge. Yeah.
Playing our resident book mage, Kyrrie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marissa, also known as Critical Kitten on the interwebs, and I play Kyriel von Hollingsworth, who is the first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance. She is an aromatic stoic who understands the words, guardian of a grimoire, curator of a private library, and recently has pledged to learn more about fun.
I love it. And finally, rounding us out, playing our venerable and very cool Weaver.
Hi, I'm Bill. I'm playing Maurice Webb, a stalwart empath of the Order of Weavers who turns tales into reality, and I'm off on my own little adventure in the Tollesbury district.
Oh, and what an adventure it is. You already... So guys, just to kind of preface, we are probably going to have a little bit of technical difficulties just because everybody and their grandmother is on Zoom right now, doing important things like actually checking on loved ones and staying connected to friends. So if you hear a little bit of a gap in our audio or video quality, that's the source. But otherwise, we're here. We're ready to make your social distancing a lot more friendly and a lot more fulfilling. And it's our pleasure to do so.
Our solemn mission.
Our solemn mission.
We solemnly swear.
We solemnly swear that we are up to trying to do some good. So last time...
two apostates both at the same time. Yes.
And we already have some raiders. Thank you. Roll the Roll is raiding. So
hey
thanks
guys.
so much for joining us.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome to our Invisible Sun stream. So if you are just joining us and you have no idea what happened last episode, guess what? A lot of stuff happened. So one thing that was a big deal was there was pit fighting. One of our two resident apostates decided to brawl the reigning champion and turn him into beef jerky.
That's always a good idea.
Gavriel managed to go to the undersling, which is a really cool, interesting part.
Now, I just feel like when we say turn him into beef jerky in Invisible Sun, that could be literal.
That could be very literal.
So no, kicked his ass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Brutally.
And
the whole episode was just Gavriel bullies this poor pit fighter.
And poor is a strong word. He had plates affixed to him. He had he had spiked balls at the end where his hands should be, and fat lot of good they did
behind
him.
You.
You always forget the sniper what can turn into a 7-foot tall raptor. Clever girl, yeah.
As one does, yeah. Totally. Everybody should expect that all the
time. Twig and Kyrrie were off minding their own beeswax, doing research on a ritual for Basil Fictorum, the resident fictional character that has been turned into a reality, presumably by a past version of Maurice. And so they uncovered some really interesting knowledge, one of which was a ritual that can summon forth and conjure a conceptual spirit, provided you have the correct components. So that was super cool and interesting. and finally going off on his own merry adventure in the topiary district of Satyrine, Maurice, you encountered There Capthine, who is essentially the chief custodian and gardener and groundskeeper of Tollesbury Park, who discussed the missing Tristan farm with you, as well as the circumstances of his departure from police or Garrett custody into the wilds of the park. And not only that, you found that you had been pickpocketed, and when you turned to see who could possibly have done that while you were in Tollesbury Park, you met a strange accented gentleman by the name of Jack, who was peering at you from over by a hedge. So that was a pretty momentous and interesting episode. And you know what? We ended there. So why don't we start there? Maurice, you have looked into your belongings. You find your entire bit of crystal orbs, I think about 10, are missing from the total 17 or 18 that you had left.
And that's interesting because it was a temporary construct, partially made of wind. So I don't think Maurice is, I think he's at least 50-50 on whether he was pickpocketed at all. Oh, by the way, this Maurice has a dog with him, and it looks like that.
Oh, buddy.
So and I am searching for Tristan, and I called out Tristan's name and met Jack.
Mm-hmm. Just a tall, spindly fellow, is peering at you. He's wearing a stovepipe hat. He says, "Boy, I'm Jack."
And I say, Maurice, nice to meet you. I'm looking for someone. Have you seen anybody?
Well, could be I might have seen some people. I tend to go through here a lot, actually.
I don't tend to go through here at all, so you would be a great help to me.
Oh, you in need of the services of a guide?
And that's what you are.
Oh, well...
just a guide when I need one.
Oh, I'm a Jack be nimble when you need one. I'm a Jack catch, a Jack knave. I happen to be able to suit whatever position or circumstance you might find yourself in.
For a fee.
Oh, depends on what you're looking for, what kind of services you need rendered, friend.
Well, maybe you could start by showing me to some people that you know that might be staying here.
Oh, Jack knows plenty of people, friend. Staying here? What, in the park?
In Tollesbury.
Ooh, interesting. All right. Well, I've got friends in many places, high places, slow places, medium places. I'm happy to have you introduce some people, but, what's in it for old Jack here?
That's a good question. And Maurice pulls out a pocket watch. The one that Ashwin gave him. The golden pocket watch, Dream of a Million Dreams. And just holds it up and says, "How's this for starters?"
Ooh, may I see? And his long, spindly fingers begin reaching forward. And as you he steps into the light of the garden, you see that he's got this very interesting sallow, pale set of features. He has this very these bright eyes that glimmer at you as he's looking at the watch, and his movement seems to be very erratic, but also very active. He always seems to be moving when you look at him.
So, Zach, you give me the spooky scaries right now. So Maurice is going to try to roll something. Is this behavior similar to any sort of spooky, scary thing that Maurice might know about from his brief time back in Satyrine?
Let me take a look. So in order to baby read Jack, why don't you go ahead and you give me, if you can give me a level 10. Yeah, if you can give me a level 10 roll, you might learn a little bit more.
Which pool is this?
I would say that this is an interaction pool. You are trying to discern this person's, the nature of your interaction with them.
Okay. Fuck it, I'll burn 3.
Okay. All right, so now you need to hit a 7.
That is a 6.
Okay. So on a kind of like this narrow mist, you basically kind of, you get a couple of really weird vibes off of this person. I will say that the way that they move does not remind you of anything or any person in particular. But at the same time, you just like, they, for all intents and purposes, Jack seems to be just a very gaunt, kind of vagrant-like vislae, or perhaps maybe even a non-magic user. It's hard for you to say. But you do just know that if you had to put your finger on it, it reminds you a little bit of how some Elderbryn seem to move.
Got it.
Where they're always kind of like moving and kind of always in flux. And not too unlike a Lacunae either. They largely, what you think of Jack is that he doesn't seem to be presenting as very human-like, but he's not altogether too alien either.
So, Maurice kind of takes a step back and says, "You can look with your eyes."
Oh, all right. I see. You don't want to let old Jack get a close-up with his peepers? All right.
I mean, I can't exactly pay you half in advance now, can I?
Well, that's fair. Well, you know, there's things what need doing if you can help old Jackie boy with some things.
I guess.
Well, I'm looking for something. Something in particular I've seen a lot of. I've asked around some of these friends you keep on inquiring about, and they pointed out that this place is rich with them. You ever heard of an Olari rod?
Olari rod. Aren't those used in, like, long-form magic?
Yeah. Exactly to ticket. And so, these things, you know those thought forms what kind of continue to just cut all the hedges and what have you?
Yeah.
Big bother. Ugh. Let me just
Why
tell
is that?
Oh, they're just always there when you're hoping they're not gonna be, and they're always looking at you. And,
Yeah, I mean, but surely a person as upstanding as yourself has nothing to hide from a thought form.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I got nothing to hide. Why are they following me about?
Always in your business, I get it.
Excellent. Yeah, we see eye to eye with me. I get it now. So, what I'm looking for is one of these Olari rods, what they use to make these thought forms. I know they's probably got them stashed in a wheelbarrow someplace. Any place.
And Maurice kind of just coils up the watch, puts it away, and says, "So I guess this was not of interest to you."
Oh, it's all of interest. I just think maybe a little bit more bang for your buck might be if you get one of these rods for me. I mean, or you can look to the rest of the park if you want to go exploring yourself. It's pretty big, though.
I'm sure it is. So, you help me, and I don't find what I'm looking for, I'll give you the watch. You help me, and I do find what I'm looking for, I'll get you the rod.
All right. Trade's a trade. You got a shake on it with me? He offers a long, spindly hand.
Maurice takes it a bit more aggressively than he normally would.
Yeah, and when you squeeze his hand, he's like, "Oh, gentle," and there's just something weird about the texture of his skin.
And Maurice just kind of makes eye contact and says, like, sorry.
It's all right. Honest mistake. So,
where should we start looking for someone who might be hiding in Tollesbury Park?
Well, depends on who you're looking for.
Are there that many people hiding here?
Oh, you'd be surprised. This place got so many nooks and crannies.
I'm already surprised.
Good. Keeps you alive, that does.
So, what types of people would be hiding here?
Oh, ne'er-do-wells.
Someone who's
Fugitive.
recently arrived.
Oh. Someone recent, eh? All right. I see where you're gathering it. I'll tell you what. Walk this way. And he begins this kind of long, kind of oblong, almost like silly walks style stride.
Maurice ponders for a second to do the Mel Brooks routine, but does not.
And he just keeps on moving past a set of hedges, not too far from where you are.
Okay. Maurice will follow, keeping a coronavirus-esque 6-foot distance between. Question about refreshing my pool.
Mm-hmm.
This suit is giving me a Vex.
Mm-hmm.
If I refresh, the suit still gives me a Vex.
That is true. It is
All
a
right.
Vex until I use it.
All right. Cool. So I'm going to refresh my interaction pool.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, so you refresh your interaction pool as you're kind of like... What does that look like, by the way, as you're kind of about to set off on this course of action?
They're refreshing. So no, I'm asking. Is it? You're asking about that action?
Yeah. Does it do you take like a deep breath and like?
It's a rebuffering, right? It's just like you clicked refresh and it just went zip.
Mm-hmm. And
top to bottom.
Yeah, and as you do, kind of like take that moment to like refresh and recenter your focus on the currents of magic. We're actually going to turn a card. See how this goes for you. And our card is one that I actually really like, called the Vizier. The nemesis of notions, cats, clocks, and wind. Manipulation, sycophant, power, and influence. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. In this case, a sycophant is manipulating a leader. A person in power is being threatened. A leader is overthrown. Someone is exerting secretive influence on someone else. I think that may bear fruit soon. We'll see. So, as you are kind of striding towards the hedges where you saw Jack disappear, you turn a corner and you see he's still striding ahead of you, maybe about 20 feet. He seems to be moving very quickly, but there are these gigantic literary scenes in a massive topiary garden. And flitting from topiary sculpture to topiary sculpture are these small mechanical birds that appear to be just kind of almost, they don't seem to have any kind of like nuance to their patterns. It all seems to be rather random, but at the same time, the literary scenes, you see that these are scenes from books and from history and current events, although there's not a great deal of familiarity.
Mostly nonfiction.
Mostly nonfiction, but there are occasional fiction heavy kind of topiary sculptures in the mix as well.
How common are mechanical constructs? I would say probably not as common.
Yeah, but at the same time, everything's a little uncommon in Saturnine.
Got it.
Yeah.
So nothing is making me really.
The only thing that seems to be tripping your radar right now is Jack himself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maurice is taking this all in. He's still, I think, in this Basil mode.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of noticing a topiary that tells a specific historical story, and then thinking about the brother of the person who that story was about and how they served on this council and how that council was involved in the thing, and a similar sounding council actually worked in a different thing, and it's just kind of zapping around in his head. And he's also remembering, oh yeah, this messenger bag with all my crap is disappearing, so he's kind of taking handfuls and putting them in pockets and in his suit there and trying to get all his crap together.
At which point you hear from ahead of you, "Oi, you coming? What?"
Sorry, I'm coming.
And you begin walking, and you see that there is not far from where you've kind of started. All of the mechanical birds are whirring around kind of one central point, and as you look, your eyes meet this massive green galleon in its own copse of trees. And essentially, this galleon is easily the size of a massive ship that you would see in real life. 3 sails, gigantic deck, and there is a gangplank of hedge leading onto the grass floor of the park towards one of the paths, as if to invite you to walk up it.
And what is Jack taking me there?
Oh, he's bounding up like 3 steps at it for every one.
So Maurice pauses a bit at the base and kind of like scratches his beard a little bit. Thinks better of lighting his pipe because he's trying to be sneaky, and walks up the green gangplank.
And as you begin walking up the green gangplank, you are beginning to hear quiet, furtive sounds coming from inside the deck of the ship, or in the hold of the ship.
All right. Does Jack, I mean, I'm looking at him from a bit of a distance and from behind. Does he look like he's hunting? Does he look predatory?
Why don't you go ahead and make me another interaction roll? The same difficulty applies. So
Not
10.
spending anything. We'll see what we get.
Okay.
Another 6.
Okay. So he's striding forward purposefully. His hands are kind of almost like a Nordic tracking up, as if he doesn't know what to do with them. They're kind of just always moving. And he strides up to the top of the hold, as it were, on the mast or the deck, and says, "Oi, kiddo, got a visitor. You and the sapling over there? You need some company?" And there...
Yeah, so Maurice will walk up and follow at this point.
Yeah, at which point you hear a just kind of long silence, and then you hear, "Who's asking?" And he says, "Oh, some dapper fellow. What in a green suit? Probably
And
like him, I bet."
Maurice kind of steps forward and says, I can take it from here.
"You sure there, mate?" He sees you like carrying your entire bundle of stuff.
Yeah. Holding my old clothes. It's, if you're Tristan, Ashwin sent me to help you.
At which point you hear, "Ashwin?
Yeah.
Ashwin Khatri? The maker?"
We're of the same order. I've known him for some time.
"Okay, hold on." And you just hear you hear this kind of susurrus noise intermingling with what appear to be whispers from this young voice. And it's kind of like assurances. It's like, "Well, no, I mean, but this person, well, yeah, no, I know what yes. Just let me do this." And you see, kind of striding out from the main part of the hold, a young, disheveled man. Can't be older than 25 if he's even 23. There is, he has this kind of rough look about him. His clothing is torn. You realize that he has probably been sleeping in these clothes for some time. There is, I think, just leaves tousled in his hair. And he says, yeah, I'm Tristan. How do you know Ashwin?
I welcomed him back from the Grey, and we are currently in the Hendasa together.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Maurice says, here, I brought you some clothes. And gives him his old clothes in his hands.
he walks up a series of small green steps to get to, or he kind of bounds up rather a green latticed ladder up to the same level as you, and takes them in hand and says, oh, perfect, thanks so much. And he begins and he's a very slight man, very small. And
my clothes would be draping over him.
Oh yeah, he's swimming in them. And he looks at all of the folds and wrinkles and says, thanks. Yeah, so...
I spoke with Thurai. She says that you murdered Joa. Ashwin says you're innocent. I can help you. Just tell me what's going on. Joe, you mind giving us a few minutes?
Sure, mate, sure. I'll just be, over here waiting on that, debt what you owe me.
Okay.
Yeah, and, you guys begin to talk. But before we do that, we're going to smash cut. And I'm going to change the music. So, Gavriel, you find yourself at a crossroads. You pursued the only lead you had. And while they gave you something of a small clue as to what your next steps should be, you still find yourself realizing that this is a much larger picture than you'd originally glimpsed. What are you thinking about, and what are you doing?
That is a great question, because I don't actually have a good answer. The house is gone. She doesn't know the city extremely well. I think she's just wandering. There's nowhere to go. Maurice was off doing his own thing and clearly did not want anything to do with Gav. Twig and Kyrrie probably don't want anything to do with her either. I feel like she's like a second away from just going into the Hollows herself and figuring out who Jaren is and trying to do it as undetected as possible, but that sounds like madness.
And so, yeah, I think it's in this mindset that you again hear a very familiar voice speaking to you.
It was hard watching you struggle with that. How are you feeling? What can we do?
What can we do? We don't have a lot of options left to us, do we?
Well, we can always rejoin with the other vislae.
How? I have no way of contacting them. They have no way of contacting me. I don't know how to get back into King Nine's library like he'd ever let me.
You make a great deal of assumptions.
It's not an assumption. I don't have a way of... Do you know something? Because you do this a lot, where you let me ramble on and then you secretly have a way in.
Well,
Are people like walking, like, are they like trying to like stay like, they're just seeing this girl talking to herself in the middle of the night?
So as you're kind of walking around, yeah, why don't you make a perception roll?
I'm not gonna put anything into that. It's a 1.
Yeah, you are completely absorbed in your own shit in the middle of the undersling of all places. And you know, the funny thing about it is, the one thing you do notice is that anybody who resides or kind of traffics through the undersling is probably has the potential of being a pretty formidable fighter. So people are giving you a wide berth.
It's nothing. They've probably heard of what I've done already.
That is
joking,
that is very much a possibility.
How many women out here with parrot hair are there with a giant sniper rifle?
Hey, things are uncommon. All things are uncommon in the Saturnine. That doesn't mean that they're rare.
Yeah, I think she's just muttering to herself. I think who she would want to contact, I think out of everybody, would be Maurice. Since like that was like, it was Marlon that she ran into, and clearly this man was up to some deep shit, and would maybe know something about how the files get tampered with.
Yeah, I think you get the vibe that if you could like basically kind of like trace your steps back to that Hindasa acclimation center, you might be able to kind of like find similar notes. You just wouldn't know where to look.
Yeah. And at least I know where that is. I know the general area, and Bill, actually, I'm going to need you to remind me, because as thorough as my note taking is, I did not write this down. Did you, right before you told Gap to fuck off, did you tell her where you were going specifically?
No, but
You didn't.
you last saw me at the safe house in the Topiary district.
In the Topiary district. Well, she might head down to the Topiary district. Start walking her way over there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you happen to have this pouch that bowed through you in the middle of cadavers.
Lots of good money in that, I'm hoping.
Yeah. What do? Do you search it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There are 50 crystal orbs in there.
Nice. Hell yeah. And I'm supposed to come back for another match.
Yeah.
Put that on my day calendar.
Exactly. At some point, you are due another big bout.
Hell yeah. But I think right now she's gonna pretty much wind her way over there, thinking maybe somebody has seen Maurice, or maybe she can pick up his trail herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why don't you? I think that you can. It depends on your mode of travel. Are you taking a train? Are you going to grab a taxi? What are you going to do?
From the snaxi? From the undersling to the Topiary district, how far of a walk is that if one were to walk?
You know what? Let's look at the map, because I've redone that. All right, hold on. Excellent.
This was not planned.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So the undersling is actually inset here, right around, I want to say it's actually, right off of the northern, I was going to say the southern part of the city. So right there is where I think, let me double check the scale real quick, and I can tell you exactly where you would need to travel. Bear with me.
No, it's all good. I'm going to say if it's like 5 miles or under, she will walk it. She is a soldier, lest we forget, and a sniper and a tracker.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more than that, snaxies for everybody.
Snaxies. Let's see. Let me
I just got hungry.
Yeah, I would say, so there is a large part of, you would have to take a very long train ride, so I think you're better off taking a snaxi or whatever cab.
I just like saying it, so yeah, snaxi. I want to take a snaxi. Gavriel takes a snaxi.
Yes. So I will kind of point out to the stream. This is a mode of transportation where the mode of locomotion is an actual gigantic snail. However, basically because not every cab keeps the same kind of cab, whether it's like a checkered cab or like a snail-driven carriage. Or in the case of King 9, a massive golden carriage with thousands of human feet.
We don't talk about that one.
Yeah. This one you see is actually fairly very well hygienic and very well maintained, that you managed to flag down in the undersling. It is a carriage, kind of like a basket being held aloft by 2 flying swans.
Yes.
And the kind of driver, there's a small, almost like wicker basket partition between you and the driver, but there's pretty much nothing over the top of it, at which point the Elderbryn driver looks to you and says, "Where to, miss?"
Topiary district.
"Ah, very well. Shouldn't be too long. Hold on to your seat." And as you kind of sit into this wire basket, the swans lurch and take off. Almost like a kind of like a almost Harrier style. They kind of hover and then they zoom forward. And within, I'd say about 45 minutes, you touch down in the Topiary district, right in the center. At which point, from the sky, you're able to make out what looks to be a gigantic banyan tree. And on either outskirt of the district, you also see a number of large sprawling parks and hedge mazes. Where to in the district?
Anywhere's fine. You can just drop me off at the nearest park.
And yes, absolutely. And as you are kind of heading towards what looks to be this giant sprawling park with topiary sculptures, as well as very well-trodden paths, you catch a shimmer. You are moving close into the darkness of late evening, and as your eye catches the light, you realize that you are looking at moonlight glimmering off of a massive crystalline structure. And that massive crystalline structure appears with sweeping points and dramatic buttresses, and all of it appears to be made of moonlight, as though it glimmers like a gem to the northernmost part of the district, right on the cusp of the ruined expanse.
What is that?
And he says, "Oh, it's a shame. That's the old opera house. They're gonna condemn it soon."
Keep trying to get away. You pull me back.
What kind of DM or GM would I be if I didn't pull you back in? Yeah, and
You can. That's a good landmark. Drop me off there.
and yeah, he says, "Are you sure? It's a little bit. All right, very well." And he drops you off in front of this giant district. He says, "Be careful. It's foreclosed over there."
It's fine. I'm not staying here anyway.
And he drops you off in front of this giant crystal structure.
How much?
We
did
never
that set
see
me
Gav
back?
again.
Shut up. How much did that set me back?
I'm gonna say for an 45-minute long trip, I'm gonna say it was actually about 4 crystal orbs. So roughly the equivalent of 40 glass orbs.
Cool. Well, since I have crystal right now, I'm just gonna give the 4 crystal.
Okay. Excellent. And he just says, "Much obliged to you. Have a wonderful evening." And the swans once again take aloft, and he begins scouring the terrain for his next fare.
Farewell, magic basket swan man.
Farewell, Gavriel.
I have to say, flight of the Snacksy Swans sounds like a ballet.
I love it.
So,
Actually, it's the opera.
Up.
the current opera being performed.
So now you are standing in front of this massive opera house. And
Gavriel.
I was going to say, it is even more gorgeous in front than it is from the air. It looked like a beacon, but now it's this monolith of moonlight and beautiful scenery.
I think standing outside of it, Gavriel recalls the ghost that, here I go frantically through my notes, that stopped her when she was racing back from the gray.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it was a very long time ago. So you're all gonna give me a second because I want to prove.
What are you talking about? It's only been a week.
Time works differently here.
Time is wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Very wibbly wobbly.
Well, it is relative.
Okay, I can't find it, and I don't want to waste time.
Okay.
The ghost that
Ghost
contacted me and I was racing through.
of Mona Farn.
That's right. I think she kind of holsters her rifle and like looks up at it like, well, we did kind of promise to take a look at this, didn't we?
There's something about this place. It feels off. I would be
Everything is off.
No, more so than usual. There's something wrong here.
Look, nothing here is going to help us at all in our current situation. It's not going to solve any of those problems, but honestly, I don't know what to do, and I hate that. It's not like any of our former allies are going to want to help us.
You don't know that. We are stronger together. Together as a choir. They must be a part of your choir.
So, do we go in, or do we keep looking?
I cannot make these decisions for you, but I know that you are stronger with your friends, and whatever lies in there will be met head-on a great deal more effectively when you are with your choir.
You're probably right. What if... is there a gate that's like closed, or is it just open and there's just doors? You can just walk up the steps through it.
There are notices officially of the Garant's office. There appear to be just, warning, condemned due to architectural disease. Please do not, no vislae is permitted to enter here. No magic is to be used without authorization of the Garant, Hylas Strom.
And that ghost... We could tell her that we could come back with help. Last time we just ran right past her.
We could.
I don't know. It's been so long since I've been useful at all. It might be nice to try to help somebody.
You do not give yourself nearly what you own and earn and deserve. But this place is a place of darkness. Like the place that you went to during the fight. It might swallow you up.
Pretty effective during that fight. I almost enjoyed it.
And that is what concerns us.
A quick look inside couldn't hurt, could it? And I go in.
Okay. You step through.
Just the quick one, and then we'll leave, and then we'll go find. I don't even know where Maurice is.
And you look into this spiraling lobby of the Opera House, and there is something dark and tragic about this place. And you see that the walls are spider-webbed with what appear to be almost like vein-like organic masses. And you can see them in the corners the further you go in. They're very deep back into the lobby, and most of the front half of the lobby is shimmering with moonlight, but the second half is a ruin. There are structures fallen in places, buttresses and columns that have fallen. There are that were clearly load-bearing, and there is debris all over the place. There are also what appear to have been fenced-off areas that were in the process of what appear to be restoration or reclamation, with tools that have been hastily abandoned. What do you do?
Oh, hang on. It would help if I wasn't muted. Step very quietly into this foyer,
And
taking in some of the sights that are here, wondering if that same ghost is going to recognize me at all.
And I think in the back of your mind, you hear a whisper. Hey there, do you care?
Definitely not Mona Farm.
Yeah, Ethereal freaks out.
Who was that? What was that? This is wrong.
Probably a ghost. I mean, we met one before.
Hey there, do you care? And you realize that it is resounding and echoing in your mind. And there is an aura of menace to this voice.
We're full up in here. Frankly, there's too many of us in this one situation.
Hey there. Are you the fair?
Well, that's entirely your opinion. I think, Gav is like she's not going to step any further inside.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's just sort of assessing the situation.
I'd like you to
deciding if she should back out.
I'd like you to make a perception roll.
This one I will put one in.
Okay.
That'll be an 8.
Okay. On the 8, you hear it. You hear this voice, and you're thinking, oh, it's a ghost. It has to be a ghost. But you have heard ghosts. You have met ghosts. You have touched ghosts. And fought them and reconciled them. Whatever this is, it is not a ghost. It is something far more sinister and far more, you can tell, you feel the same way that you felt when you were kind of preying on this fighter and on the highwaymen and attacking them as this beast. You felt what it was like to be a predator. And for the first time in your life, you feel this kind of shrinking darkness kind of moving to envelop you, and you realize that the feeling is very much that of being, for the first time in your life, feeling like prey.
I think for an added bit of flavor, my feathers on my head start to like kind of rustle a bit, and there's for a brief moment like that creasing on my face into a raptor, and sort of like the back reflection kind of mirage look of claws forming on my hands for just a minute, and I snarl out as like this sort of imagery fades before I can like fully cast the spell, being like, no, I wouldn't push your luck.
And the punctuation of luck from your tongue begins to resound throughout the lobby and punctuates and crescendos into this echoing laughter. Just this coughing, choking, which kind of ends in a gurgle, like
a person was suddenly there, not in my head, not like resonating through my head.
Oh, it's very much echoing through your head. In fact, I need you to make a resist roll.
Okay.
Your target is going to be a 10.
It's an 8.
Okay. You take one anguish as this thing makes you feel this awful feeling deep inside of you that you know is wrong. And not only that, that it seems to be moving closer to encroach upon you. Your fight and flight response is being tripped. What do you do?
I back out.
Yeah. All right. Do you exit the lobby? What do you do?
I'm just leaving. I'm leaving the opera house.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you leave, you swear you feel like as you kind of make your way quickly away from this place, this unholy feeling that's kind of clenched around you, you swear you feel it watch you, the entire opera house, as you leave. And we're going to cut to our two vislae in the library. So in your bonding session, you guys had specified that you were looking to basically kind of reconnect with Maurice. There is some time between now and then before you kind of find your rest. Is there anything that you guys are getting up to before you make it to the end of the evening?
I think there had been at one point, at least in terms of location, Kyrrie was in her room, just back in the quarters where we were all staying when we had first come to King Nine's Keep. And she had been ruminating upon the fact that the picture in her room had changed. Instead of a mirror, which is what she had been seeing everywhere, from sortiers to on walls to in dreams, she instead saw a picture of two sisters. And, you know, she's, I think, pondering some of that and probably doing some quiet activities, writing, reading.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think that you are just, I think that once again, there is this kind of feeling on the hairs in the back of your neck raising, but not in a way that's kind of like of terror or fear. You just sense that there's something in the room with you, and there is this flicker of light at the corner of your vision.
Kyrie's going to look towards it.
There is a moth floating, just kind of glimmering, white motes of light kind of circling around it. And you realize this is a moth with clearly a message for you.
Kyrie's going to hold out her finger lightly, inviting the moth to alight on it.
The moth alights. And once again, you hear the imperious voice of your sister echoing through your mind as the moth imparts its message. I thought I told you We were meant to speak sooner. Where are you?
Kyrrie considers a minute. Does just mechanically, Zach, is this an instantaneous channel of communication, or do I have to give the Moth a message to take back to her?
I think it's fairly instantaneous.
Okay.
I think in this case, the Moth would have actually been giving you the opportunity to reply.
Okay. Well, dear sister, I've been quite busy, if you haven't noticed.
And I think it's pretty much just like a one-shot message. So yeah, and the Moth flies off.
Any warm feelings Kyrrie had been having or interesting thoughts suddenly just completely dissipate and are replaced by sort of a cold, not anger per se, but irritation at the imperiousness of her sister sort of believing that Kyrrie should be at her beck and call.
Exactly. Yeah, it's discomforting to have your sister checking in on you, but more to the point where it seems like she's very insistent about something, about seeing you for some reason. I think that's probably the thing that captures more of your kind of trepidation. Twig, what are you up to?
So we've got a little gap of time. I think Twig will seek out information on the concept of leaves of emotions and how that, like, kind of the meta magic of how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're kind of like looking into this, you of course have to consult Basil Fictorum. You can also try to consult King Nine, but he may be busy. You could even try to consult Avelia or Patral.
Yeah, actually, fuck Patral. You know what? I'll actually ask Avelia. She's the only person here who's not actually awful.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think Twig will kind of, pop in, just like boop boop. How's it going?
And yeah, she's kind of busy just reading over a few volumes in her study when you knock on her door, and she says, "Oh, how can I assist you? What's going on? May I help you?"
Oh, yeah, I could use a hand with something, but also just also wanted to check in on you and see how you are with all of the goings on.
Well, to be honest, I've been better. I feel like things are coming to a head. Basil he's always been obsessed with this for as long as I've known him. He's always wanted to know his creator, and now he just seems to be rushing headlong into something. He's a singular mind, and I haven't seen him like this, which is saying something. But I'm still where I am. I think that it's a good change, even if it's one I haven't seen before. And it just makes me want to leave this place so much more.
What's stopping you?
Oh, my father, largely.
Why?
Well, when you are the daughter of one of the most notorious gangsters in all of Satyrine, you tend to put a very large target on your head. It's my understanding that you know something about having a target on your head.
and in it, apparently. But, I mean, what's the point if he's just going to keep you here? Why bother?
I think the better to cultivate me, to have me succeed him.
Seems like you're going to lose out a lot if you just stay cloistered here. This is a limited space, limited people.
Oh, what more could I want? I have all the riches available to Satyrine and both of my fathers to look after me. And...
Both?
Yes, Patral.
Twig definitely struggles to maintain a straight face at that.
Well, do you not know what crevail means?
Well, as it were, I'm fairly new here, but maybe you can enlighten me.
It's a word for confidant, but it's also a word for paramour.
Twig's struggling between being like, oh, that's cool, and also fuck that guy, and like those emotions are jackknifing wildly back and forth. So probably there's a little bit of a face journey going on there. Twig is not especially good at concealing emotions, but just kind of like takes in that information.
You look like you're chewing on glass.
Yeah. I like one of your dads.
Do you like... Which...
Oh.
You like my father. You like King 9.
I can respect straightforward power. I don't have to like it, but I can respect it. And I think the way he wields it is intriguing.
Intriguing? You don't see the legs he breaks, the people that he folds underneath him, and
I didn't say he's a good person. I said it's interesting. And I think that if you really look deep at the rest of the world, you're going to find that, just different forms of that in most places.
Well, Basil doesn't seem to think so. He keeps telling me all these tales of how he wants to introduce me to all of the friends that he made. He says that they're good people. They're maybe less real than what I'm used to in Satyrine, but that they're good. That they're quintessentially good people. He said they were written that way.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case. Do you think he's a good person?
I think whatever he's trying to be, he's working very hard, and I know for a fact, I know that he loves me. And that's good enough for me. And he's saved my life. He's helped save yours, or vice versa. I wasn't sure, to be honest.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
And he wanted to meet his father. Who wouldn't want to meet their father? After not knowing your whole purpose for so long, he introduced me to Kyrrie, who I think is, I mean, God, it's like passing in front of a mirror. I kind of feel like I could have been like her and been out in the world and been studying amazing things and going off on adventures and trying to find who you are. I mean, there's a bit of romanticism there, isn't there?
there's a lot of truth there too. You can't be yourself in a small pond with limited boundaries. Nobody learns anything without a little bit of danger, some mistakes made.
Exactly. In one breath, I'm saying that my father is awful and that Basil is good, but I've been in a small pond for a very long time, Mr. Twig. You have a...
Just Twig.
Okay. I'm ready to take a jump into the ocean.
Well, I know me and Kyrrie are leaving soon. And despite my feelings about your significant other, you're more than welcome to come along.
If only. And besides, and she points at your wrist armlet, I have a feeling you'll be back sooner than you'd prefer.
Yeah, I'm sure. Can't learn anything without making mistakes. Oh. And Twig shakes the bracelet a little bit.
Yeah, and there's this weight to it as this onyx band kind of red tinged metal kind of shakes in your hand. Well, I suppose I need to be getting rest. I know that Basil mentioned something about a dream study.
Literally no idea.
Well, it makes two of us.
Could you direct me? Kyrrie is retired. I'm looking for information on, like you seem to have spent more time in this library. I'm looking for information on leaves of emotions and... Oh,
that's our business.
Yeah, I'm interested in the structure behind that.
Oh, well, essentially, most glass orbs, crystal orbs, they represent ideas, and very powerful ideas, and sometimes some more precious than others, hence the denominations, the currencies. What we tend to do is we have something of a manufacturing of, let's just say, less pure strain emotions. And you take a certain number of crystal orbs representing a particular emotion, and you fold them into one collective mass, a leaf, for instance. And leaves can vary in cost, anywhere from 10 or 20 orbs, something along those lines. And yeah, so we... if there's one place to look for it, you happen to be standing on the fount of black market leaves of emotions that go into Satyrine. That's my father's trade. That's why he's so powerful.
Mm-hmm. So where would if there was a beginner section, or maybe emotional leaves for dummies?
Well, certainly I can refer you and Kyrrie to a couple of texts.
That would be positively lovely.
In the morning. I'm very tired.
Understandable.
And she bids you good night and says, don't worry. First thing. Promise.
Hold you to that.
It was good talking to you, Twig.
And you as well.
And we are going to smash cut back to Maurice. It has been some time. Tristan has been describing basically what has happened at the scene of the crime. He has recounted to you almost exactly what you've already heard, from Theray Capsign, and as well as Joe, the assistant to the Garant. He has also added his perspective, which is, it was like I left my body. I was in some dark place. Felt like I was watching these shadow versions of us dancing, and it wasn't a dance. It was just, when I come back to it, I was holding a knife. It was covered in blood, and I looked down, and Showa was at my feet. You have to understand, I wouldn't do that to Showa. And he's beginning to lose it.
Maurice will do his best. He doesn't have, typically he casts his Hestia charm with a teapot, and instead he goes and holds him by his shoulders and kind of puts some pressure points like on his shoulders, like, hey, I'm here with you. It's over. We're gonna get through this, and calms him down.
Okay.
Maurice says, I heard you talking to someone in there. Who's with you?
Oh, just the person that broke me out of the cell. I say person pretty loosely. A sapling called Quirkus, I think. I don't know. I always got along really well with plants, and I always wanted to work in the garden, but I was always working at places like Garver's, and I think Theray was just waiting for me to get old enough, but I guess Quirkus took a liking to me.
What's the last thing you remember before the shadow?
I was holding Choa's hand. I don't remember having a knife. I did have this feeling that I was being watched. It was really weird. And
did you go anywhere unusual or talk to anyone that you don't normally talk to in the week leading up to this event?
No, I think I did what I usually do. I served my shift at Garver's, and then I would do some odd jobs around for Theray, and where occasional kind of try to slip into that work. But for the most part, I was just doing what I always do. I picked up Choa from hers and Ella's shop, and we went off on our date.
Do you know where Ella is now?
As far as I know, probably still at the shop. Maybe she could tell you more? I don't know.
Did you speak to her after Choa died?
No, it was much too fast. I got picked up by the thaw. God, they're terrifying. Anyway, they just threw me into the Garant's holding cell. I don't even think they really have much of a jail. Anyway, that happened, and Ella always kind of kept to herself, but maybe she knows more.
What about Choa? Can you tell me more about her?
Choa could light up a room. She was wonderful. She loved books. She and her sister, they run this bookshop, and it's all these really interesting and weird kind of magical texts, and she was getting really good at spellcraft. I thought she was going to be an amazing weaver. And then just we'd been seeing each other for a few months at this point. I don't know. I just know I can't imagine anybody having a grudge against her, or hurting her, or wanting to hurt her, or wanting to hurt me with her, or her with me.
It seems like somebody wanted her dead, and they didn't want it to look like they did it.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, who would do that? Who would want that to happen?
I don't know. I'll have to find out if I'm going to help you.
And as you're kind of, again, with your basal hyper-awareness, if you like, you can make an interaction roll with me.
Sure. I will also say at this moment, Duncan is, so we're kind of sitting like cross-legged across from each other, like on the floor of this plant galleon.
Mm-hmm.
And Duncan is completely like on his back, belly up, and just scratching the belly and talking to each other here. So interaction roll. Let's do it.
Yep. Add 1 because you have a dog.
Hell yeah.
And this is Tristan's a dog person.
8 on the die, so 9.
Yeah. You understand that he is telling you word for word, verbatim, what he knows. Your basal awareness is looking at him, your hyper observation. You are seeing like no kind of tics that imply that he's lying at any given point. There's no kind of behavioral aberration as he's kind of like discussing, no nonverbal communication. He is being as straightforward with you as you can possibly be.
I'd like to make another roll using my +1 to understanding magic that's not normal, to see what would be the nature of that shadow state he described, that kind of mind control that seems to be.
Absolutely. Give me a roll.
Woo! It's a 9, baby. Plus the 1, that's a 10.
Yeah. On a 10, you have encountered something like this. You have encountered something similar to it. It very much smacks of what you learned about the Parasad agent who controlled G's, Kyrrie's classmate and kind of rival. It's very much, it sounds very much like a spell of manipulation. It feels like it also, you would know this with a 10, it has a dark aspect to it, as in it has something from the dark, basically the abyss, about it. And not only that, you get the sense that whatever caused this was a short-term effect. It may well have been a spell, but with your kind of knowledge of what you're hearing, you think it might have also been an ephemera object. Something somebody could have one time kind of like bauble or use that could have triggered this effect and had a very short-term but very devastating effect.
Maurice, after kind of doing the, eyes up, consider, pensive face, meets Tristan's eyes again and says, it's going to be very hard to clear your name because you did, in fact, do the crime you are accused of.
Oh.
However, if I can do my job, I can prove that you weren't in control of yourself.
You would do that?
I'll do it for Ashwin, and I'll do it for you.
Okay, thank you.
I think I need to talk to Ella. I think she's the only person who can tell me a little bit more about establishing the motive of this crime. Why someone would talk to Joa. Did she mention where she trained as a weaver? Any names of the member of her cell?
I couldn't tell you right off the bat, but let me see. Maybe Ella would know. I don't know, but she would know the specifics. I just know that she was super happy. I mean, we'd only been dating a few months. I kind of wanted to know everything about her, but I just, I wanted to respect her space.
Oh, good on you, man. Listen, and Maurice leans close and says, the person that led me to you would do that for about anybody else that gave him enough money.
Oh,
So
Slipping Jack? Yeah. He's kind of just a quirky guy. I don't think he doesn't seem dangerous, you know?
I mean, I'll put it this way. He sold you out to me
Well,
on a promise.
well, look, friends are in short supply right now. I'll take whatever I can get.
Fair enough. Does Quirkus, is he around? Is Quirkus a he?
And you hear a feminine rustling of wind, as if through willow branches. And from behind Tristan, you see what looks to be this kind of living sapling staring up at you. Willows coming down to form hair, and these kind of tendril-like branches ending in fingers waving.
I don't suppose you're up to the task of keeping him safe from anyone else that comes looking?
At which point you hear the creaking and the slow nod of Quirkus's head as they ascent.
So Maurice can't quite hide his skepticism, but kind of shuffles his hair underneath his cap, puts his cap back on, and stands up. And Duncan stands up, shakes out, says, well, do your best to be safe. And I'll look for you somewhere in the park, if not here, when I need to find you again. Okay?
Absolutely.
And Maurice shakes his hand.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. It's hard to believe that people really do this. Samaritans or whatever you want to call them, do-gooders.
If you want to think of it as me paying a debt, maybe that'll make it easier to swallow.
Okay, I guess.
Just take care of yourself. Been through a lot.
Okay, I will. Thank you. And Quirkus, as you are leaving, or as Tristan kind of turns and walks away from you, you see what looks to be this large kind of hedge barricade move between you and her and Tristan. It's almost like a solid wall of hedge, and it seems to blend in with the back of the hold.
Maurice smiles and thinks, but does not say out loud, that's cool as hell.
Yeah, what do you do? It's, by the way, I would say it's pretty late in the evening.
Oh, yeah, it was late when we started. Yeah, so Maurice walks outside, catches, what was it? Slipping Jack?
Yeah.
Catches his eye and says, you delivered. It's time for me to hold up my end of the bargain.
Ooh. All right, that sounds like a real plan, mate. Now, you gonna get started now? You gonna do?
Yeah. You know I'm coming back because I'm coming back for Tristan. And when I come back, I'll have the rod. Deal?
Quite a deal indeed. And he again extends that hand.
We already shook on it. Thanks. And Maurice begins to walk out, takes like 10 steps and turns around and says, it's that way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
All
and
right,
then
mate.
walks out of the park.
All right. And yeah, you find your way pretty easily enough back out of the park from retracing your steps. Your awareness is beginning to fade.
Absolutely. Maurice, before he goes back to the safe house, he's going to try and get eyes on the shop itself. I don't think he got a name of the shop where Joy worked with her sister.
Yeah, he would have actually told you
Okay.
He would have told you where it
Excellent.
is. Let me actually look that up.
So, and I mean, yeah, he's fine to go out of his way to do that, but probably will be kind of on the way back to the safe house.
Excellent. And yeah, there is, I think it's a very small, you know that he doesn't really remember the name of the shop. It's not too far away from Elias's Greenery, which is a kind of a gardening and topiary shop within the district. But you do know that it is a bookshop that is not far from there, but it seems to be fairly distinctive. And when you do kind of follow the lead, distinctive indeed, because what it is there seems to be one giant book, basically kind of like a giant display at the top of this 2-story store. Most of the first story is dominated, like half of the facade, by this book, and there are what appear to be dozens of books circling around it in orbiting constellations. And it's the name of that is Ganadel Esoterics Limited. And it's a very, other than the display, it's a very inauspicious shop. It doesn't seem to be too
He's gonna take a slow lap around it, and I think do some sort of perception roll. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. And he'll spend a bene.
Okay.
That is a 2 on the dice, +3, or +1 is 3.
Okay. As you are walking past it, you get the sense, this unusual feeling kind of like nags at you, but for whatever reason, you can't seem to place it. I think your mind is somewhat dulled by the fade of the spell, and you just, all you feel at this point as you're making laps around this house is that this shop is, you just, wow, it's been a while since I went and slept, isn't it? And not only that, you do see what you think you see a light, but you're not sure. The moment you check, it seems to be completely dark.
Maurice rubs his eyes and looks at Duncan and says, "Let's go to bed, eh, boy?"
Aww. And you hear Duncan whine, and you guys head back to the safe house, where I assume you take your rest for the evening.
Question. That's also the direction that Gav was heading.
So I'm gonna do this. Actually, Gavriel. This is going to be the one and only time probably that I roll dice on this stream.
Oh boy.
High or low?
Hi.
As you are walking along, you see, I think the one thing that kind of does match your perception at the, the twilight of your awareness and the twilight of your ability to kind of keep up, you do recognize a crest of familiar feathers walking just over, like them poking out just over a about 5'10" hedge, not too far away from your walk back to the safe house. What do you do? Oh, pardon me. That was phrased to Maurice. Okay. Yeah, should have been Gavriel. I apologize. Yeah, Gavriel, I think that there's this kind of green suited gentleman that you see not far away from you across the street. Your perception is still very keen and aware of what's been going on. You are like a sharpened knife as you're kind of making your way down the street back to the safe house, and at the same time, you see this green-suited gentleman walking down this very elegant sartorial fashion, a little heavy set, but otherwise just very dapper, very elegant. And you do a double take as you realize, holy shit, that's Maurice.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think she runs to kind of catch up.
I think Maurice will kind of start at the noise. Like,
It's just me.
Gav, it's good to see you. How have you been?
Well, she looks like shit. I have one wound, a vex to my physicality, and now I have an anguish.
Mhm.
I look like I've been through it.
And you answered, I'm good?
No.
Okay. I was just checking. So Maurice, how are you? And then, like, as you get closer, his eyes kind of narrow in concern. Same old. Sweetie, you look messed up.
There's quite a bit to explain. I came back here actually hoping to find you.
Well, you found me. Come inside. Come inside.
Oh, yeah, they'll go inside. I think Gav is like too keyed up to sit down, so she's just like pacing back and forth as her feathers don't like steadily keep going up and up.
And Maurice like listens to her as he smokes a pipe.
And Marvin is working for Jaren.
Oh, that fucker.
I was like, I figured that we were basically, I explained everything else at the pit and then like concluding it with that.
But you know, everyone at the Hendas is working for another goddamn organization. God damn it.
We're going to come back to that.
I mean, it's pretty typical. Right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. It's kind of our thing.
But what it means is that the lead that I thought that I had on somebody possibly knowing me in this godforsaken world is not true. It was just a note to be contacted if I was of use.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the people that have the best idea of who we used to be, probably you and me and Twigg and Kyrrie. I don't think it's a coincidence that we were linked like that. So maybe you should find them if you want to find the key to your past.
Maybe we should.
I mean, yeah, let's go back to the library and find them. Absolutely not. Like, we have things to do.
I know. I don't want to be stuck in a library. That's why I left in the first place.
Yeah, I thought we were on the same page.
But if you also believe that they might have some knowledge of our past, then somehow we have to thread this needle.
I don't think, personally, solving that mystery is my first priority right now.
Why aren't you curious? You poke and pry at everyone else's insecurities and their memories, and you try to make them happy with the world, but the minute that you might personally be involved with it, you start walking away.
I take issue with that. If I'm not poking at their insecurities or their memory, it's their stories. I love to hear the stories.
Not everyone
Nothing's wrong with that.
Tell their stories because
I don't pry.
Our personal stories might actually be painful. There's a reason I don't go walking around constantly talking about all the things that, suck.
Well, I mean, the other reason is you found out that it hasn't helped you come any closer to what your past life was here inside Irene. I know I'm a broken record, but at some point, like, you have to accept that you aren't who you were. Yes, you had a life here, and yes, there's a connection, and yes, there's a mystery, and quite frankly, I'm curious too. But
if I reject all of that, then I am nothing here because there is no memory and no story for me to read about myself. The only thing that I have to hold on to are the experiences that I had in shadow.
Let
so
that
hold on to
them tightly, and let them create some sort of new creation. Let them collapse in on itself and become a big bang of this new life that you have.
But there is no life. Do you not see that something is like hiding? For all of us, it's not just me.
So then your life is finding the mystery and dealing with that. And I thought that's what you would...
As you're so fond of saying, if we wouldn't, why else would we have all been thrust together? If not to uncover this mystery together, what if it's all tangled together? You are included in that togetherness.
That's true. And, like maybe when they're done in the library, we'll start again. But life is going on outside of it, and I'm kind of in the middle of something. So,
What are you in the middle of?
Helping a friend. The person who, this is technically their safe house.
Oh, but, Ashman.
Yeah. He asked me.
Tried to shoot me.
I would too if someone was in my house.
Well, water under the bridge.
That's right. They're a good guy. No, Ashwin, it's just some local politics stuff. I'm investigating a murder, I guess. I'm real spent and I need to sleep. And maybe we can talk about this again in the morning.
Oh, we're going to.
Oh, great.
As you each settle down to your custom area for your sleeping arrangements, minus Twig and Kyrrie, you begin to drift and to dream. Kyrrie, describe the dream study as it begins to appear in your mind.
If you've ever been inside an academic's office, you'll have a reference point for what begins to form as Maurice drifts off to sleep. It's a room with towering bookshelves, reminiscent in some ways of King Nine's library, but less organic and overgrown with nature, much more orderly. Books are color-coded. They look to be quite old, but as though they've been placed with care, and that attention has even been paid to the height of different books, such that they look symmetrical on the shelves, and that different trim sizes, or the same trim size books, are actually stacked next to each other. The room itself is very warm. There's a fire crackling in a fireplace nearby. A long, dark mahogany desk is very imposing. It's the focal point of the room, and it's strewn with papers, just covered in notes or citations or big reference tomes flipped open, their pages yellowing, cracked with age. And you see Kyrrie is sitting at that desk, and she's dressed differently now. She appears to have fashioned herself in this dream state with a set of robes that glimmer with magic touched thread that moves like water as she shifts a page and reads what's underneath. It's a cream brocade dress with crimson Merlot fabric accents, and it has a tall Victorian collar, puffed peak shoulders, and a very long sweeping skirt with poet sleeves, which are, if you've ever seen fashion from the 1930s, there's like a wristlet that closes the sleeve, but it's otherwise like very billowing, like an oval, very puffy. She's currently looking over a book which is worn, tattered, but you can just make out the title in faded gold leaf that reads, Gant's 15 Laws of Bibliothecographical Curation, Preservation, and Classification of Arcane Artifacts. This is an assistant librarian text that all know by heart, and can recite subsections on demand, which, of course, junior librarians are often tested by senior ones, because
during hazing rituals. Yeah,
exactly.
Can we just take a pause and just applaud Maurice?
Oh,
Seriously.
Upperclassmen can be jerks, so that it holds true of librarians too. But yes, that's what you see as dream state beginning to form.
And I'm going to jump in on this because this dream state room is something that Maurice and Kyrrie actually built together. Mm-hmm. And in the tail end of this room is a spot for 2 beds, and they're not nice. They're it's like dormitory style, twins, not very nice frames and everything. And in the corner where Maurice's bed would be is nothing.
Oh man.
Intriguing.
And
so I think it takes maybe 15, 30, 45 minutes, an hour. Maurice isn't here. He's not coming.
Kyrrie sits with that and comfortably continues to read her familiar text that she knows by heart, that gives her strength and comfort, falling back into a pattern of consistency and focus around the things she knows and the things she's good at, things that have rules and sections that you can flip to. There's always a section to cover every situation, every eventuality. There's always protocol and policy to be followed. And she studies this, knowing that if Maurice doesn't come, then perhaps he's not to her what she once thought he was.
And there is, I think that, in your slumber, Maurice, you do feel the call and the pull of the dream study, but it is ultimately your choice to decide whether or not you appear.
So I am going to say that because of this shadow magic that has made us impossible to find, and because dream study is something that we enter together as an agreement, Maurice is simply unaware.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And would have no reason to have entered this state.
All right. And not only that, but as the realization dawns on you, Kyrrie, that Maurice isn't coming, you hear that awful voice in your head, not literally, not outside of yourself. It's more of just remembering what it said to you. We live in the cracks of your heart. And it's with that you continue your work into the night, studying invocations, protocols, rituals, Vancean ephemera, and esoteric knowledge. And it's with disappointment that you eventually wake up. And we're going to take a break there. We'll be back in 5-10 minutes, everybody, to pick up where we left off, and join us soon. Guys, we're back! Welcome. Welcome back to part 2 of today's episode of The Hole in the World, a actual play of The Invisible Sun, a game by Monty Cook Games. Once again, I am joined by my 4 favorite vislae. I am Zach, otherwise known as Great Samino, your GM. Let's pick up right where we left off, and that was after reuniting Gavriel and Maurice. Maurice essentially did a little bit of refusal of the call for the hero's journey, and decided not to meet up with Kyrrie in the dream study. Prior to that, he had spent some time investigating Tollesbury Park to find the missing Tristan farm. He was led to to Tristan by a strange kind of fellow who seems to have his fingers into a lot of different pies, fellow named Slipping Jack. And in addition, we had some interesting heartfelt scenes between Gavriel and Maurice, as well as Twig and Avelia at King Nine's castle and the library, which is where we're actually gonna pick up. So you told me that you wanted to take a little bit of time to do something else, Twig. What were you doing before going to the to rest this evening?
So after leaving Avelia, Twig is going to sidetrack back down into the main level or whatnot, and I'd like to poke my inquisitive little apostate nose into the King Nine's trophy room.
Yeah. So this calls for a change in music. 1 second. There we go.
Whenever the DM says that, I get like, I just have a reflexive like, oh no.
Yeah. And
What's it going to be?
once again, the room that you sprinted through to escape from detection by Patral and other members of King Nine's court, with the help of Avelia, lays open to you. The invitation coming in the form of this gigantic jawbone of a large kind of saurian creature marking the entrance and archway of this exhibition. And once again, even in the darkened recesses of this, several of these glass trophy cases, all lined with glyphed spell glass, ensorceling their contents, is open to you. What are you looking for?
When last we were here, you mentioned that there was people that had become trophies who had been stripped of parts or aspects of themselves and were used as living warnings. And so I'd like to investigate that further.
Absolutely. So, as you look through, there are what appear to be coats of armor. There is what appear to be a pair of angel wings that are mounted on display within a case. There is also, of course, the thing that you saw when you immediately came in, which was this kind of conscientious force slamming itself against spell glass, trying to break free of its trappings and failing miserably, something ethereal and spiritual. There are numerous other cases, I'd say probably at least the size of a small museum wing, anywhere from 60 to 100 pieces in here. What are you looking for in specific?
I'm looking for anything that appears to be sapient.
The thing that is slamming itself against the glass, even as you walk by it, is very sapient.
So, taking a little bit of a risk here. This seems like an aggressive entity, but I mean, I guess I would be too. I would like to cast Psychic Missive.
Okay.
To send a question.
What Excellent. Okay, what level is your Psychic Missive?
Psychic Missive is a level 2 spell, blue, and I will spend the additional sorcery to allow it to reply with a message of similar length if they choose to do so.
Okay, so that makes it a level 3 spell, which also reminds me that we need to turn a card for the dream study that was cast. So let's go ahead and do that. Ooh, this one's a good one. I think we've actually may have seen this one as well. I believe this is The Endless Woods. Sounds, nature, mysteries, the dark side of the forces of life. The woods and the wilderness are untamed and unsafe. Travel through them is perilous. We hear things all around us that we cannot see. Someone gets lost in the woods or wilderness. The forces of nature, weather, plague, living creatures cause an incident. A mysterious event occurs. A significant event happens in an unknown land. Oh. All right. Okay. Yeah. And I think that that's what this is this thing draws your attention, this slamming force against the glass, each time just rebounding harmlessly off the spell glass. You cast this level 3 spell. What I would like for you to do is to also add the current level of your counter spell to it.
Which is so I also have Spellbreaker, which means that I have a passive ability.
Spellbreaker, that's what I meant.
Yeah. So I have Counterspell, then Spellbreaker means I just do the thing.
Yeah, well, it helps negate some of the magic.
So it negates a level 1 or 2 spell cast on me.
Okay.
So that would be adding 2 then?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is going to be, you're going to have 5 to your venture. I need you to hit a 3 or above. This is a level 8 spell glass, essentially.
Oh, okay. All right. I will jam some Sortilege in here as well.
Okay, so roll with, I think that actually means that you roll with 3 dice? Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, because you're casting a spell on the glass.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay, so my Sortilege dice is the slightly bluer one.
Okay.
So that is... that's on the other 2, it's 2s, and the Sortilege dice is a 9.
Excellent. Well done. All right. So you manage to just pierce this magic. And what is the contents of your message?
Who are you? How long have you been here? And what led you to be here?
All right. So remind me, is it of a similar length? What length do they have to respond?
It says it says with a message of similar length.
Okay. Yeah.
The Twig brace is a little bit for the unknown.
I am going to... All right. Let me see. I am going to pull up something interesting here. Something that interests me anyway. It's always a good sign.
Don't like that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up one quick thing. And not that one, this one. So you are talking to this creature. It is ethereal. It seems to have a face like that of a, it's kind of twisting, but it's almost like a little bit bird-like, as though you kind of make out almost these puffin-like features staring out at you from the glass, and it stops slamming against the glass, and it looks at you with these kind of beady red eyes, and it looks like at you and says, I am Nalakander. I've been here decades, at the very least. And I am the only demon that stood between King Nine and his rise. And that's what you get.
Interesting. Well, Twig is just gonna sit and ponder for a second, and you can fuck off. He's a demon.
And you just see it start slamming as you kind of begin to move dismissively away from it. Again, like just shouting through the glass, no sound coming out.
Yeah, that's good to know for future, for the future. But yeah, I think that's all that I'm inclined to do for the evening. Just meander back. I'm gonna stop by the room I was staying in and snag some bedding, and hightail it back to the library, to that small nook that Literalum showed me before I booped him.
Absolutely. And yeah, you bed down to the night for the night. Let me ask you something, actually. Do you take off your jacket, or do you sleep with it on? What do you do?
Pretty much always sleep with it on. I think like in general, Twig's a bit grubby. They pretty much always it's always ready to go, like ready to rock. Like everything within reach or on them, like just not a, yeah.
So I had to turn a card in the event that you cast a spell, which you did. And the spell and the card that I got is the Assassin. So we know whose card this is. And as you are walking back to your bed, to your room, you encounter, wandering the halls, Patral. And he looks at you, cocks his falcon head at you, says, "What brings you down to this trophy room?"
Poking around.
Be careful where you poke. Things. And it just...
I'm sorry. My first response was title of your sex tape. That's what my brain said. Damn it. All right, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, he sees the moment like of you kind of like about to make fun of him and sneers at you and says, "Just because you have made a bargain with King Nine does not mean you are immune to retribution should you wander where you do not belong."
Well, I don't really know where I belong, so it makes it hard to find those blurry lines.
And he is sizing you up. Basil Victorum seems to think you are of some import.
I don't overly concern myself with what Mr. Victorum thinks.
That makes both of us, yes.
Dislike this bonding moment.
So, I remember your fight. You seem to know your way around battle. Maybe you are more like me than you care to admit.
Do you know something that I should know?
Just that I know killers when I see them. Fighters. Warriors.
It's not really I don't think it really matters whether somebody can fight. It's why they fight.
Well said. For once.
I think Twig's just started to not, and this is not a conscious reaction, but it's kind of like counter bobbing to Patral's kind of bird movements. I think there's kind of this very subconscious posture dance going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of mirroring, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and then he says, "This is how it starts, you realize." And he gestures his beak at your band. "You do a little work. A little work becomes a predilection, a job. Job becomes a passion. The passion becomes a way of life. I guess we had better get used to seeing each other wandering these halls together then."
It's certainly a possibility.
And you know that you don't know what it looks like when a falcon can smile, but there are these creases at Patral's bird-like eyes, and you realize that Patral is smiling at you in a very, like the way a shark smiles at a fish.
Twig is not going to let anything show. I think this is when you show weakness to a predator, you're just asking to be eaten. And from everything that I saw before, this is 100% a predator.
Well, I bid you good night then. Twig. I look forward to your first tribute. And again, he looks knowingly at the band and walks past you, kind of shoulder checking you on the way out.
Dick.
All right. Are you doing anything else?
How good do I think Patrol's hearing is?
He is a falcon. So
But
you're
sight
not,
is good.
sight is very good. You're not certain about the hearing.
I'm definitely gonna like sub-vocalize dick as I walk away.
All right. Do you have anything else that you do for the rest of the night?
No, just grab some of that fancy bedding and nest up in the library.
Okay. The day begins again. And once again, we're going to continue with hour 2 in the library. What are you guys... Kyrrie, in particular, I want to know, what do you do with the rest of your day, or with the next day, knowing that Maurice didn't reach out?
I think the first thing Kyrrie is going to do is actually go and request an audience with King 9.
All right, very well. You find one of the many thought forms that are wandering the hall. You make your intent known, and at some point, this thought form leads you down. Once again, its head is kind of that of melting wax, and it leads you with a little candle flame flickering on top of it, and it once again leads you into the hall of King 9. King 9 does not seem to be taking visitors or guests to the court, as it were, and is instead seemingly just kind of poring over documents and scrolls while seated on the throne. The throne flame is out. It is not, usually you kind of get the idea that maybe there is a more ostentatious display depending on who he is receiving. But that kind of mane of candle flame and the bright kind of white not corona, that's a terrible thing. This kind of bright white of hair, shock of hair and rippling muscle is still there. And the candle flame waxen figured thought form walks back up to him, whispers something into his ear, turns and leaves. And he looks again to you and says,
"Yes, what can I help you with, librarian?"
King 9, Kyrrie will approach King 9 so that she's on a level with him. She sort of looks down at his documents and says, "Reading anything interesting, King 9?
No, just inventory.
Still, you will give me a copy of those documents so that they can be properly filed in the library, won't you?"
Oh, I didn't realize I was also hiring an accountant.
It is my job as an archivist to make sure you have a complete collection.
Oh, very well. I do appreciate your thoroughness.
I came to give you an update on progress on the classification of your collection, and I wanted to run a couple of things by you in terms of your thoughts on several potential matters of organization.
I'm all ears.
Well, I've done a lot of reading, particularly in the night, and I don't know if you're aware of this text, but she produces a real version of the book that she was reading in Dream Study. This is the Bible, effectively, for all assistant librarians, and it pertains to the classification of materials in terms of rules, policies, and subcategories. And I know you may want to do things a little differently in your collection, but I thought I would give you the option to standardize it in case there was some future moment in which you would want to integrate your collection, shall we say, a little more permanently with the rest of the research world.
Okay. Give it here, and bear with me a moment, will you?
Of course. And Kyrrie hands it over.
And he takes the book in hand, and he closes his eyes, and for a minute you see his eyes scanning back and forth, reading it to himself in what you realize is very much a cantrip, very much akin to what Maurice does when he reads books, which is he seems to absorb it in a minute and then hands it back and says,
Yes, such a classification will be useful, fruitful, I imagine. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. This relationship is already bearing such good fruit.
Of course. I wanted to also give you an opportunity to ask me any questions on my work thus far, should you have it. A good librarian always gives their patrons an opportunity to be involved in the work of curation.
Let us cut to the chase, then. You have come unbidden. You have given me this volume. Very useful. Proprietary, even, perhaps, to the Vance. What do you wish in return?
It's not so much what I wish in return, King Nine. It's just perhaps the building blocks of a relationship, shall we say.
Oh, you have to forgive me. Something for nothing is not something I'm very used to.
Well, you have hired me, haven't you?
This is true.
Therefore, I do, in fact, work for you.
Yes, this is also true.
And having a good relationships with one's employer, so they teach us at the Vance, is in general one of the best and most important duties of a librarian.
Oh, how industrious you are. I've made quite a selection, I see. Or perhaps you've made quite the selection. Either way, I do feel like an advance is in order.
Oh, indeed. What would you propose?
Why don't you take these?
and from what appears to be kind of like set aside piles of orbs on a side table next to the throne, it itself made again of bone, kind of sweeping up into this waist-high platform. There are these shimmering orbs that you have not ever really seen in too many transactions, and you realize that as he kind of counts them in his hand and clasps them and puts his hand out as if to drop them into your palm, he waits expectantly for your hand to receive them.
And Kyrrie will open her hand to receive them.
And he drops what are 5 gem orbs into your hand, which each are equivalent to 10 crystal orbs.
Okay. This is very kind of you. I did not come here expecting payment, but I appreciate the valuation on my expertise.
You should always expect remuneration for jobs well done.
Well, I am at the top of my class.
Modest, I see, yes. Anyhow, I suspect this is not the only reason that you're meeting with me.
No, well, it was to give you an update, but, the second is that Twig and I might be shortly departing your keep. And I wanted to inform you of that fact, as well as perhaps request passage or a way that we could easily transport back to Santorini.
Oh, certainly. I'll summon the brothers once again. I believe your friends made use of their talents.
The brothers?
Yes.
Don't believe I've seen them.
And he clicks a finger, a thought form goes off into a side hall and says,
Yes, lacunae are so useful for so many different transactions in, let's say, hard to reach places, yes?
Yeah, so I can't say I know many lacunae, but I've read extensively about them.
Well, as far as assets go, Ionish is one of my most handy, particularly for visitors. If you encounter his brother Grogan in Fartown, you should have means to come back. Although, if I need you to come back, you will be back.
Although I should say, King Nine, if we develop a certain rapport, perhaps you need not summon me. You may simply ask.
I certainly may. Yes, I hope you found your stay in my keep to your liking. I assume you understand not too many people can call themselves guests of King Nine.
I have gathered that, yes, particularly given how few people seem to live here perpetually. I feel very honored to have been led into your library and to, as you know, be its steward and its curator. And I look forward to all of the avenues that may open as a result of our fruitful accord.
Quite. Very well. I believe that's Yanish now.
And you see once again that broad-shouldered Lacune step into the room. Its silhouette fluctuating itself a ripple in time and space, showing you a landscape that you realize is not too far away from a scene that you're familiar with. This is very clearly Fartown.
It seems that must be our passage home.
Yes, so will it just be you, or...
Well, I'll want to consult Twig before I officially depart. It would only be right. We are traveling together. I want to make sure that he has no remaining business he wants to wrap up. I know he has his own accord with you, and I'm not sure how much progress he's yet made on it.
Oh, he'll make plenty. I have certainty. People like him always bound to suffer.
So shall we just meet this Lacune here when we're ready to go?
Yes.
Lovely. And Kyrrie will curtsy politely. As ever, a pleasure, King Nine.
Quite. Always a pleasure, I'm sure.
And yeah, he just again returns to his scroll while you go off and grab Twig.
I'm going to do a little bit of quick housekeeping. Well, I wish I could have had those rolls for better things, but both of my ongoing spells are maintained with a 5 and a 6, or sorry, a 9.
Excellent. Also, you realize something. As you're kind of checking on your Plentiful Pocket spell, there is something rustling in your pocket.
Who dat?
Do you reach it?
Yeah, fuck, why not?
Yeah, it's you feel a very familiar texture of page on your hand. As
Literalum.
Yeah, it's literalum, but there's something else. And as you touch it, it shies away. But it has that same paper texture.
Well, I guess this is the weird moment when I have a conversation with the inside of my coat pocket. I'll just be like, "Oh, hello." And
up from your pocket first pops up literalum, its head kind of made of the pages. And at which point you see kind of the upper part of its small torso read, "I woke it up." And from the other side of your pocket pops up the paper crane from the Hendasa Acclamation Center that looks kind of confused, and then as soon as it sees you, looks at you, and then just jumps back down into your pocket.
You woke it up. What?
It and then in plain kind of courier sans, it was asleep.
And now it's awake.
Yeah.
Like you're awake.
Not really. But it was already somewhat like me. I just reminded it.
Huh. Oh. Does it need anything?
As
scraps of paper, books, whatever, maybe whatever birds eat, and there's a big question mark.
I'll reach into another pocket and grab one of hang on, I have this I have an inventory now, which is super fun. And it is stupid. My inventory is real dumb.
The inventory management is the best part of any game.
Clearly.
Oh yeah, clearly. Also the most exciting. Who knew?
Let's see. How do I get to that? I believe I actually determined the weight of all the pastries that I nicked from the buffet.
Yeah.
I have a lot of pastries. I'm gonna pull off a chunk of croissant and kind of tuck it into the pocket with that the swan is in. Where is my?
Are you overburdened?
No, actually, I can carry an absurd amount. Plentiful pockets.
Oh, I
caught that.
I hated it.
Yeah. And as you dump the pastry into your pocket, you suddenly see it rifling around as though it's like a piranha has gotten loose to it. And and then after a while it just settles down.
All right. Yeah, that's all I really have to do. I guess I'll go try to find Kyrrie unless I run into Avelia first, but
yeah. And yeah, I think you find Kyrrie easily enough as she is looking for you.
All right. Oh, I figured it out. Sorry, I was poking around Chronica trying to figure out how that worked. Yes, in my jacket pockets there are so much stuff, but notably there is 35 pastries.
Nice. Excellent. But you do end up I think you spot coming around the hall looking for you, Kyrrie. What do you do?
Twig's just gonna.
Good morning. Wait, are the pastries sticking out of your pocket still? Like, can I see them?
There's probably at least the hook on a croissant is probably sticking out of one of them.
All right, I'm just gonna take that and go breakfast.
And as you pull it out, you realize it's only half of one, and there are these tiny small nibbles on one side of it.
Oh, maybe I took Literalum's breakfast.
Not Literalum. There's a new friend in here. I didn't do it. I swear.
A new friend of what type? What classification of creature?
And just so Twig will reach into a different pocket and pull out a bit of Danish, and just kind of goes. And
yeah, exactly. And then suddenly the paper crane swan kind of like looks up, and then tries to like snap the Danish before you can kind of like pull it out.
I let it have it.
Created a menagerie of paper creatures.
I mean, this one wasn't me.
Well, all new forms of life are entitled to create more of themselves, I'm sure. So it's not to be unexpected.
I just hope little guy isn't too prolific.
You might run out of room in that jacket.
I don't think so. I put some really ridiculous things in here. It's kind of a great jacket.
Well, it's come in handy, that's for sure. What did you get up to last night?
Twig visibly just kind of like is visibly like but I went down to the trophy room to inspect some of the things that are kept there.
Oh.
Out of curiosity.
That horrid room with heads of dead creatures?
That room.
What did you find?
The thrashing thing is a demon that dates back to King Nine's ascension.
Oh, King Nine is a goetic. That does make sense.
It does. I don't know enough about this world to really figure out exactly what all of it means, but
So you just decided to have a walkabout?
Yeah. I thought we are leaving today. Yes.
I'm just coming from King Nine's throne room. I've arranged transport back to Fartown, but I'm afraid I don't know quite where we're going. Just that we're leaving. Maurice didn't come to Dream Study last night.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I left him a letter there. Not that he'll probably ever read it, but I figure we're on our own to get this thing done. And if we need more people to create this spell, we'll find more people. It doesn't have to be those two people.
We'll make it work. Well, let's try to find them first, though.
I don't know about you, Twig, but I really have no desire to see Maurice right now.
Maurice seems to be fairly stable. I'm more worried about Gav.
I would agree. Finding Gav, perhaps that makes most sense.
There's a certain amount of selfish interest involved too. People do still want to murder me.
That's true, although at the moment you're unfindable, so...
Yeah, but how long does that last again?
2 months.
2 months. 2 months isn't a lot of time for reducing the amount of murdering that might take place.
No, that's true, for sure. I just... I selfishly, I want to see Gav, but I've been thinking more and more that the university could help, and there's certainly people there that could aid us with the casting of long-form magic. There are many, many specialists there, and if this is what's needed for us to be able to access the war report, then isn't that what Gav and Maurice have been saying all along, that they want action to be taken? I just don't want to go on a wild goose chase. I wouldn't even know where to start looking for them.
I can't fault your logic.
No one rarely ever can.
Twig just kind of laughs a little bit, and like there's a clear decision not to spike that volleyball. I think that first things first, let's backtrack. Do you think that safe house is still safe?
It's possible, but that's Maurice's. I don't know that we can get in without him. And he seems not to be coming, so...
Zach, quick GM question. The safe house is in the Topiary district, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So I may have gone on another bit of a walkabout a while back. I don't really know anybody else in this city, but I did meet a couple interesting people in that same area. If nothing else, that might be a lead. I don't know that I would be welcome or particularly quite the opposite, in fact. And my understanding is that people of my productivities are aggressively asked to leave the grounds of universities and such establishments.
Well, I mean, with my credential, I don't think there would be a problem with access. Certainly, yes, there are some difficulties around your being what you are, but with some careful cordoning off, it could be doable. Alternatively, you could go to the safe house and I could meet you there with some additional resources.
That would work for me. I'm not really a color inside the lines kind of person.
That seems fair. Do you have a way to communicate if we're separated?
Well, I did this thing with the demon, and it's, from everything that I can tell, I'm not sure how I learned it, but I can definitely talk to people at a distance and they can respond back.
Oh. Well, if we're trying to find Gav, perhaps would it work for you to try to contact her, or is that too far?
I have no idea. I'm totally going to cast a spell whether it works or not. So it says long distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say long distance. I think that definitely works if you... Well, actually, why don't you go ahead and give it a shot?
So do I have to roll for this?
I don't... You know what? Why don't we go ahead and have you roll?
Okay.
Let's say your target is going to be a 7, and this is, I'd say, a 3, plus you add... let me double check.
So level 2 spell, I'm going to be putting in the additional sorcery to allow a response.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So I have to hit a what now?
So hit a 4 on the die or above.
All right. I'm going to put a bene into that.
Excellent.
No. Yes. Sortilege or bene?
Sorcery. So a bene.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm going to put a bene into that. So I roll 1 dice. All right. Cool. That's a 5 on the dice.
Yeah. So you feel like there might be some sort of barrier between you and, I think there's a barrier between you and the rest of this world outside of the Candleflame Keep, but there's this moment of recognition where it's almost like this defense recognizes who is attempting to work through it. And you see the band around your hand, or around your wrist, begin to shimmer and shake, and then the message goes through. What do you say?
You dead?
Gavriel, you receive a message. It is early in the morning. About what time did you guys get up? Yeah, Twig and Kyrrie, what time did you guys get up?
I was probably awake 7:30-ish.
Yeah.
Pretty early.
Yeah. Gavriel, you've been awake for a few hours at this point.
Definitely. I mean, we've pretty well established that Gav probably gets about the earliest out of this group because of military training.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you literally hear Twig's voice in your head say, "You dead?"
Yeah. I didn't add anything. There's no context.
As somebody who's used to having voices in her head, no. Are you?
I cannot respond. So,
you can cast it again. Now I know what Matt Mercer feels like.
That's all you said.
So helpful.
You can reply to this message.
Respond to this message.
Ooh. So Twig turns to Kyrrie. She's not dead. I probably should have asked for more information.
Well, then cast it again.
Oh, do I have to roll again?
No, I think that with kind of getting through this the first time, it now recognizes that the user is in the employ of King 9.
Okay. 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay. We're about to leave the keep. Where are you?
I'm back at the safe house.
Should probably learn to ask more than one question in a sentence.
You really need to do that, yes.
She's back. Twig turns to Kyrrie. She's back in the safe house.
So it seems you would be right, and that's where you should go.
And where are you going? To the university?
There are some things I should attend to on campus, but if you could let me know once you've reunited with Gav, I'll come find you after.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so I think after like some kind of final get together, you find yourselves back in the court of King 9 in the throne room, at which point you hear his distinctive timbre say to you,
Twig, my daughter bid me give this to you. It's a little bit of an explanation of what we do. I wonder why it is you requested this.
All knowledge is good knowledge.
It has something to do with this Basil, doesn't it?
I mean, I can't seem to escape him, despite my best efforts. But
you and I are of an accord, it seems.
I guess we are.
And he extends this slip of paper, what appear to be a small sheaf of papers, to you.
Twig will reach out and they will take the sheaf of papers and tuck it into a pocket that they're pretty sure Literalum and the crane are not in.
Excellent. All right. Which point says?
So, Yanish is ready to take you wherever you desire to go. I assume that's Fartown.
Yes, although, can he take us to different bits or only to the same location?
One at a time, you can go wherever you need.
Kyrrie gestures to Twig.
I'd appreciate a drop off at the topiary district if it wasn't too much trouble.
At which point, Yanish pipes up. All right, step on through. Whichever you wants to go first, you just tell me where. And one by one, each of you recounts your destination. And similar to what happened with Maurice and Gavriel, you are helped through this living portal to your separate destinations. Question: which places in particular did each of you want to go? Any place in particular in the district, or just do you give him a general locale?
Wherever I had met Sarai, is that
Therai?
Yeah. Therai, yeah, wherever I had met her. And I think Twig is definitely going to be a little bit like, am I going inside you? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, it's best not to think about it, man.
Cool. And it gives a little mock scout salute at Kyrrie and just kind of hops on through.
Yeah, and each of you find yourselves in those separate districts. At which point, we're going to cut. So, Gav, you have received several messages. Maurice, what have you been doing with your morning?
He slept late. He was exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's like going on 9:30, 10 before he wakes up.
Okay. And yeah, so at this point, yeah, Gavriel, do you kind of like wait, or are you trying to kind of rouse Maurice early?
I think that Gav would know better than to do that, and she like slept in early. I mean, she slept in later than she normally does, which for her is getting up at like 7:30 as opposed to 6. And I mean, she's like got like a whole bruised face. I think she's still got like a black eye, but she's like feeling better. Almost like that long rest really fixed a little bit of some of the problems.
I dig it. Yeah.
And I think what she's doing is, I don't know how much info is still there from the last time we were there at the safe house, but is like, are there any books? There are books there, aren't there?
Oh yeah, there's tons. There's a bunch of fiction from Basil Victorum. There are probably a few texts from the Hindasa Acclamation Center.
I think anything that's there that's a little bit about bringing vislae back, and also information on how they explain the war, she has been reading this morning.
And what you get, and I think that this is, because this is Hindasa specific, I'd like you to take a hidden knowledge when you go through this, which is, what you do is you have two sets of material. You have the material that the Hindasas circulate amongst themselves, which can differ from, hand to hand, from person to person. Sometimes several workers making their own literature, and other ones distributing literature to new vislae, or new returns from the Grey. And basically, the idea behind the Grey literature is it is an explanation of everything you thought you knew is a lie. This world of 21st century nonsense is exactly that. It's nonsense. Was it death, is not the end. Technology is, basically a imitation of what magic already accomplishes daily, and that magic does so much more better. The city that you are in is Saturnine, the city of notions. It's part of the actuality, the actual real world. And you begin kind of getting all of this, but at the same time, as you're going through the Hendasa acclamation literature, you're saying, basically it's a lot of like therapy and coping strategies for introducing people gently into the world. And a lot of that has like documentation. If you can record somebody's identity, typically you'll be able to disseminate information to interested parties who may or may not be family members and loved ones of those who were exiled to the Grey and who came back and who desperately miss their family. And so a lot of it is literally just kind of like very like boilerplate, like inner, it's almost like orientation documentation for Grey Reapers and for Grey, or not Grey Reapers, but for Hendasa workers. And a lot of it like really deals with some of the basic foundations of what Maurice has been doing throughout his entire time. And this is kind of like the first time you've been exposed to what Maurice like does on a day-to-day basis, like in more granular way. And that's assuming that you're kind of like reading this deeply, not skimming it or anything like that.
I would assume, actually, because I know what the last 6 months had been like for Maurice and Gav, she's going to see certain, like, oh, fuck, that's what that technique is called that he did with me, and I didn't even realize it, Yeah,
exactly. It's very eye-opening. You are kind of getting an insight into Maurice's calling.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things that she's not like marking up the book, but that she's like mentally highlighting. It's stuff that she's partially known, like 21st century, and the stuff that coordinates with like the very limited information that was in the file. And I think a lot of the mentality behind this is that there's nothing in here about the war. There's nothing in here about what to do with somebody that doesn't have memories. Everything about what's going on with her, with Twig, even with like Maurice, whether or not he really wants to deal with it, and a little bit from like Kyrrie as well, is that none of our experiences correspond with what's going on in this book. And why isn't there that's like more than just like one or two people? There must be more people that have had this happen to them. Are they constantly swept under the rug? Do they just not talk about them? Or what does the Hendasa do to those if they weren't lucky enough to find somebody like Maurice to take them in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of these questions, and the thing that keeps on reminding you of 21st century nonsense is the fact that there was that extra note in your file. It was
wrong decade.
Yeah, wrong decade, different decade, ? Yeah, so that definitely kind of like pings around in your head.
Yeah, and I think she's kind of like mulling all of this over. It's like akin to that moment right before like corkboard's about to get broken out with a lot of like twine and like red tape, being like, something really is wrong here. And I think she's not just thinking about it as herself like she has been, but in terms of the entirety of the city, that there are other people that must be experiencing the same things like the rest of us. And what is the Hendasa doing to them?
Interesting. Okay. So, I think at this point, Maurice, you're waking up, having slept in.
So Maurice wakes up. He feels refreshed. The pulls go back. And he starts going through the cupboards. And he realizes that the four of them kind of cleared out the rudimentary store of food that was available. And so first thing he says to Gav in the morning is, well, we need to go shopping. Or maybe get some breakfast first. I know of a good place. Want to come?
Yes, but perhaps before that, you should know that I think Twig tried to contact me.
How? The spell. But the shadow spell.
Rained.
But we no one can find us. That's the whole point.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work amongst those that have all the spell cast on them.
Maurice kind of collapses in a chair, then he starts breathing
I found
heavily.
you.
But that no, you found, like, you went out and found me. The spell, you can't find this. Oh God.
Maurice, the spell was cast on all of us.
Yeah, but it didn't say it like, oh, because you're in the spell, you can find each other. We shouldn't be available for anyone to see us.
Hang on, because who in this entire crazy place has ever told us the entirety of the truth? Nobody, right? So my guess, if I had to guess, is that anyone who has had the spell cast on them means that we can find each other, but nobody else can find us.
I wonder if that's true. And Maurice is going to start thinking of a way to test this.
But yes to breakfast, but maybe I have a feeling that maybe I'll leave a note about where to find us if the rest of them...
No, I don't think that's safe. I don't even think we should go to breakfast. I think we need to go.
Oh.
I think we need to go.
This
we
is
need
too
to go.
much. No, you take the paranoia down from a 10 to a 7. If people are following us, she gestures back to her rifle that's like sitting on the couch possibly at this moment. I can still defend us. This is not a problem. What is if we panic? If we panic and then we make stupid choices, like we've been doing, and that present company is included in this, that's how we're going to get found out. You were already out and about in the city all day yesterday. Did anything happen?
No, because I thought the spell was keeping me safe.
Perhaps we keep thinking this. The only person that found you yesterday was me.
Yeah. But I don't know. How did I get this so wrong?
I think we all got pretty wrong.
I don't think anything's okay. I thought we had time.
We still do, technically.
I need to...
But we should take these 2 months. This is what I've been saying. That's why when we got what we wanted with the security of the spell, is that we should be moving, not staying in the library.
We got a false sense of security with this spell. That's what we got.
I've been living with that.
Okay, let's get breakfast. I need to think. And Maurice kind of shakingly packs a pipe and lights it with the finger flame. This is what
I've been saying, is that we have to take action now. If we want to find this Jaren to stop them from killing Twig, we have to move.
Yeah, they're not safe.
None of us are safe.
Oh, they're not safe.
I nearly killed...
I thought we had time. Let's go. Let's just walk.
But first, you're going to calm down so you walk like a normal person when we're outside?
I can walk normal, and Maurice demonstrates a completely not normal walk.
I'm very convinced. This is very convincing, yes.
And he points at you with the pipe and says, well, okay, hold on. And he looks and looks for a spider in this room.
Yeah, give me a perception roll.
So Gav just sees you suddenly looking at the ground and the walls, and she's just...
Yeah, nothing has gotten better for you.
Is this you walking? Is this... a robot.
I'm going to pump this with 3.
Okay. Yeah, so you're going to want to get, I'd say about a 6.
All right, 7 on the die, so a 10.
Yeah, you find a small spider. Actually, probably the same one that you saw before.
And I get down on all fours, really intense, and I go, "You live here, right?"
Whoa, Mike! Wait! Well, before you're gonna do whatever you're gonna do, just know I got family, and they're gonna come after you.
Can I hear this?
No, you cannot.
Okay, so I'm now watching Maurice talk to a spider.
Yeah, and the thing about it is Maurice is saying words that just sound like this kind of susurrus and clicking. And at this point, exactly, the spider is just kind of whoa, all right, look, if you try to squish me,
No.
You fuckers
no.
always love to squish people. Let me just tell you right now, I've got a whole family, and they're bigger than me.
I
I've
would
got
never.
fucking tarantulas on you, mate.
No, that's great. So if you stay here is the point, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I've got friends that might come looking for me. Could you, like, Charlotte's web me a friggin' message?
Yeah, I guess I could do that. I mean, I'm just gonna tell you, what was it? You're looking at a lot of labor here, mate. What do you want?
Just an M for Maurice. That'll do it, right? Just something visible.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I'll pay you back. I don't know how, but I will. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. And yeah, it just kind of like looks at you. Its 8 eyes kind of just like if it could look at you just weirded out, it would. And then it just kind of scuttles back into a crack in the wall.
And then Maurice pops up. It's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And it kind of goes up to the cornice, up the cornice of the wall into the corner, and it begins dutifully spinning a web. Probably for fear that whatever you're gonna do the next time it sees you, if it doesn't do it.
And yeah, Maurice.
Right?
As he exits the door, he looks at you and says, "Now they'll know."
Yep, they sure will. Let's get you some coffee and some breakfast, and then maybe you'll feel better.
Okay.
And not talk to spiders in public.
The actress and Maurice kind of calms out. Spiders are actually really wonderful beings, and very misunderstood. And kind of goes on for a little bit as they walk to Garver's.
And Gav just follows you, just like nodding very exaggeratedly, like, yep, sure are.
Yeah, you find your way to Garver's. And once again, that massive banyan tree is there. It seems like everything is, it's a nice, idyllic day.
So Maurice has calmed down slightly, but is still kind of like looking at every patron in this place, like giving a second glance. What?
You have to stop. You're making it too obvious.
I just do it with my eyes.
You.
And they sit down, and he says, the berries and oatmeal are outstanding here. You really ought to try it.
All right, sure. But first, you really do need to calm down.
I'm fine.
See, this is what I was talking about yesterday. You look at other people's stories, but you ignore your own. And you're part of it.
What does that have to do with the spell not working?
You were perfectly fine when we both left. You went your own way and I went mine. You were going to go help your friend.
Right.
This was fine for you, but you suddenly completely lost interest in helping me.
You didn't need help. You wanted to do your own thing.
True. That's not true. I did. I needed help.
Oh,
But I didn't. I know that things were tense, and I didn't want to impose. You seemed excited to go help your friends, and I wasn't going to stop you. But when we left, I thought you were leaving because you agreed with me that we needed to take action now, and then you just walked off.
Yeah, I thought that we just had different things that we wanted to do.
I want to find this Jaren. Maybe it was for the wrong reasons. I had gotten it into my head that I thought that he might know me, that somehow if I saw this person or we could interact face to face, that it would jog my memory and I'd have something here and not just be this stranger constantly walking through shadows of a life that is never going to be mine.
I mean, it made sense at the time. And that I
But it's
thought,
a lie.
Right. Marlon. I know.
That doesn't mean that it's not important that we don't find this person. What if there are others Like us. Us. Not just me. Us. That can't remember anything. What happens to them? If you hadn't taken me in and decided to do that, what would I have become? Would you just cast me out? Would I have had no choice but to go work for this Jaren? I have been killed.
Maurice is going to spend a hidden knowledge here. And unless I hear otherwise, it's going to say, we're the only ones that the Hadassah have ever encountered.
Why don't you give me... So you're spending a hidden knowledge. Is this associated... Are you trying to do
with
this...
the Hadassah, with my knowledge of the Hadassah?
Yeah. So...
Because I would say as a member of the Hadassah that is afflicted with this memory loss, I was probably not only a curiosity, but, I chased after this myself for a time and made my peace.
So make me a perception roll as you search your memory for anything like this.
I'll burn 1.
Okay. So start with 2. How'd you do?
8 on the die.
All right. So with a 10, your search was very exhaustive. There is also, so in your kind of recollection of things, you're walking things back in your mind of the time that you've spent in Saturnine thus far. And there are several things that you know right off the bat, which is amnesia is not uncommon. It's actually pretty rare. It occasionally happens, but not to the extent that you have observed in yourself in Gavriel and in Kyrrie. Most times people kind of come to claim it. A lot of times the people that you worked with were kind of dismissing this as, well, maybe you lost all of your people in the war. The second thing that occurs to you with that 10 on the die is that what is actually exceedingly rare is having people coming from different decades as opposed to the 21st century. Finally, the fourth thing that occurs to you is in the time that you've spent since having the shadow magic cast on you to shelter you from divination. 1, nobody has contacted you from work. Now, typically, at this point in your kind of schedule, Ashwin would be covering from you, but you would probably hear something from Thomas Kildred or maybe even something nasty from Marlon.
I did the no call, no show.
Yeah. No call, no show? Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah, they haven't called you. Apparently, they haven't called you. They haven't gotten in touch. None of your superiors, none of your colleagues have reached out to you. And not even Ashwin seems to have contacted you recently. The only message that seems to have gotten through was that nobody has been able to do that. Or at least you suspect they either are not able to do that or they haven't thought to do that. But knowing your colleagues, you wouldn't think that they would at least try to contact you.
So I was just writing that all down. Okay. Yeah, so Maurice says, I mean, I know that we keep getting proven that everything we know is not quite the whole truth, but I mean, we looked into this. The Hadassah is not aware of anybody having this level of memory loss.
How much do you trust them?
Do I trust the Hadassah? Not very much. Their resources? A lot.
It may be possible, but given that one of your members tampered with my file as well as with Twig's, who's to say they don't throw out whole files like they never existed?
It's possible. But he was just adding notes to yours. He wasn't changing it, right?
Fair enough, but adding notes, throwing it away, who's to say? Again,
that's a question I would never have looked into. Why would someone remove records from the archive? It's possible.
What if there's some inconvenience? What if it means something here that we come back? Maybe we were not supposed to. There's too many questions and I have no answers, and that is why I wanted to move. Staying in the library wouldn't have offered me anything that I needed.
Ironically,
tracking.
Now that you've said this, I think maybe the best thing is to do some more research. I mean, these are really...
We have a heading. We have a lead. Somebody wants one of us dead.
But the reason why they want us dead is not going to be found out necessarily by charging through and killing them, right? Maybe
kill them. Right
you
now,
know what I
see us
mean?
coming.
But maybe this is the time. Maybe we bought time for research. Maybe we got this all wrong. Maybe this is the time to hunker down and...
I'm not a researcher, and I never will be. I have to have some sort of action, or I will go crazy.
Okay.
Duncan, shush here. I hand some like pastry crumbs to Duncan.
he just snaps them up. All right. So, what are you guys doing?
So I wanted to do a few things. I wanted to try and come up with a spell. I'll come up with this later. So in the meantime, for this breakfast, Maurice will share. So fine, you wanted to talk about doing action. Here's what I've been doing. Ashwin requested my help, with someone who they believe is innocent of murder. And Maurice shares the whole story and says that his next step today was to go talk to the sister that runs the bookstore.
I think Gav would actually surprise him by knowing that name, because she was stopped by the ghost, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the ghost of his mother.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Outside of the opera house the last time I was taken from Shadow. Yes.
Wait, okay, stop everything. I never got the whole story about what happened the last time you went back. Please, tell me everything.
It was not the same, and frankly, my memories are now confused. We were in America. They were in an apartment in New York City, and everything was different.
But wait, New York City?
Yeah.
Are you sure if this was the Grey? You weren't dreaming?
How can I be sure? I barely understand this myself, but I know that the beings that are in me, and she gestures to the void, they were physical. They were physically there with me. And they all knew something was wrong.
Okay. Maurice, I think he's going to spend another hidden knowledge.
Yeah. I'm going to have... Yeah, go ahead. What are you going to say?
Well, just to like, because this is what he does. He studies things that happen in the Grey, weird shit that happens in the Grey. Like, what could this mean possibly for him?
And to spare our listeners from a full-blown recap, she will go on to fully explain what happened in that episode.
I will give you this for free. The way she describes the scene up until she has the confrontation with her not brother is you realize it sounds very similar to what people describe when they come back from the Grey normally. Basically, that it describes fairly quotidian stuff when it comes to the Grey.
Yeah, but the especially in the way that like someone's that hosts a choir would, when they were, people go back all the time, but to Maurice's knowledge, is anyone's forte and other magical aptitudes ever reflected in these returns? Sometimes
it's preferences. Sometimes it's things like artistic motifs that they encounter. You've not heard of people that host a choir. You have heard of people that host a legion.
A legion, right. Yeah. And then when people go back, do things change radically? Do they go from World War II Russia to New York?
No, they pick up right where they left off.
So Maurice is not worried, but just fascinated, and actually maybe even a little inappropriately excited and happy.
What is that? You have that look on your face.
I mean, you're an anomaly on top of an anomaly.
Oh, good. I love it.
Nothing like this has ever happened before. And he goes on and starts pressing you for every detail to I think, frankly, to your annoyance.
Yeah, and I think that Gav is just sitting there being like, the last thing that I need to be is another anomaly. It's just more questions on questions, and nobody has answers to them.
So Maurice will apologize and say, so you met Ashwin's mother?
I think so. When I came back from the Grey, it was very confusing. I had met a planewalker and they got me out. That was the only reason I think I ever came out. And I knew where you were. You were at the radio station, and I ran through there. And as I was passing, that's when I met the ghost who was desperate for help. And it was for a man, her son, Tristan. And I said,
sorry.
I couldn't stop, but that was it. And then here you are already doing it.
So
And I walked into the opera house too, when I passed it. That's creepy in there.
Well, you wanted action? Guess a ghost gave you the same mission that I'm on.
So you don't believe in coincidences. You think everything that we do is connected. I didn't think that before, but I'm starting to now. What if everything that we do, everything that we touch, it's not a coincidence? People that stop us for help, it's not random happenstance. It's for a reason. What if these are threads? What if they add up?
Maybe we made a big mistake splitting up.
Well, they're coming. They're coming back.
To the safe house, right?
Yes, I hope so.
And as you kind of think of that, we are going to cut we're going to cut back to Kyrrie real quick. Kyrrie, I assume that you're making your way back to the Vancean campus.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, what is your purpose? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, she received a message from her sister summoning her, and she knows that her sister frequents the Vancean campus, and so it's a natural rendezvous point. She also wants to be present to, number one, do some further research in her library on some of the developments that she learned about, like the mirrored sortier. She also wants to see what resources the university laboratories might have in terms of the components needed for the long-form magic spell, which at the moment she's planning to just do herself with the people at the Vancean campus, because that's what she thinks is the best way forward.
Excellent. So you make your way back. I assume that you're going back to the library in which you typically work, or are you going to start requisitioning things?
Yes, the A.R. Aquarian Memorial Library of Rhizomatic and Esoteric Studies.
I love you so much.
And not only that, Ardeno is minding kind of the office around you, at which point you see him, his kind of literary kind of his pages and his expression register you, at which point he looks at you and says, Mistress Kyrrie, Miss Van Hollingsworth, we've been wondering where you were.
Yes, I'm sad that I've been away. I'm very happy to be back. It's I've taken a secondment at the King Nine's personal library. You may have heard that we're beginning to set up infrastructure to share resources with them.
I had not heard this. King Nine's library?
Yes. Perhaps the most formidable collection of private materials in the world.
Oh my. I just I can't tell you, just that's shocking to me. None of us would have guessed. I think that all the Maguses have been kind of mum on everything, to be honest. I've been asking around.
Really? That's
Yes.
interesting. Well, I mean, part of me coming back is I wanted to make sure that things were being set up appropriately on this side, and that, well, it seems if you don't know, you're one of our primary archivists. I would think that you need to be aware of this development so that you can process the incoming materials.
Well, I assume that this gentleman King Nine is not much for one of hierarchy, organization, any kind of means of... I just assume he's not very much on paperwork, let's be honest.
Certainly not, but I suppose that's why he has me, or why I asked for the job, as it were.
And
I wish you could have seen it. The wealth of material is just so vastly uncategorized. It was like it was growing out of the sides of the walls. It was beautiful.
His trepidation begins to give way to curiosity. Oh, tell me more. And yeah, but before he can, something catches the corner of your eye. There's a glimmer of light.
She's gonna look at it.
And you see that there is a very small mirror on the opposite wall. And your reflection is looking back at you, looking at the mirror, and then you hear smash as someone puts her fist through the mirror and just begins smashing with books with as much force as she can. It's your neighbor.
Good God. I think Kyrrie's gonna jump.
Yeah. At which point she, and Ardeno, shocked, turns around as well. Yeah. And at which point, I believe it's Amala, or...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's, she looks at you, says, is everyone all right? Is everyone okay?
Yes, but why would you do that?
It's a virus. If anybody sees a mirror in their home, you tell me. In these offices, in this place, you tell me immediately. Understood? Is everyone understood? And all the assistant librarians, looking, and Ardeno kind of nods in assent, and the other librarians are looking on in shock and kind of also confusedly nodding. Yeah.
Kyrrie's gonna say, but why?
It's a virus. These things, they replicate and she kind of pulls you aside and just says, people go missing.
In the mirrors?
No. People here. Where the mirrors are, people go missing. I'm not trying to create a panic, but we have to be careful. I don't know how one got in.
Has this been happening recently, or is this the first that you've seen?
First thing I've seen. I've heard of mirrors before. They do not belong in this campus.
Kyrrie's going to shiver a little bit at that, because she has been seeing so many mirrors, and this revelation that there was the incidents of this prior to her arrival is sort of clicking with her as, did she bring this to her home, to the campus?
She looks and she says, all right, everybody, everything's fine. Everybody go back to what you were doing. Kyrrie, Ardeno, do you mind if I borrow Miss Van Hollingsworth for a moment? And he says, well, that's up to her.
Sure, yes. Ardeno, I'll be back momentarily. There are some things we should discuss about setting up the network of incoming information such that we'll have best use of it in our research laboratories.
Yes.
But if you'll excuse me for the moment, I'll take my leave.
Very well. And Amala begins walking with you. And she says, would you accompany me to my office?
Absolutely.
And she walks not far away from your domicile, and she opens the door to her own office, which is just stunningly appointed, very well ordered. It is the very major model of a modern major book mage. It's very fantastic. Everything is ordered from alphabetically in kind of, you can tell where spines have been rebound to match the height of their neighbors in their books. You can also tell that there is a small kind of running water, miniature waterfall basically overrunning the branches of a bonsai tree into a small bowl, which apparently never seems to run out. It's just very picturesque. It's very meditative. She has a seat. There's this chair in front of you made of fine rosewood with leather cushioning, and she points for you to sit down if you'd like to sit.
Absolutely.
So, I'm glad that you've come back. It's my understanding that you have trafficked with King 9 to open up an exchange of information.
Yes. Think of it like an internship a little bit. Studying to be an actual librarian of something, I was given the opportunity to actually be a curator of an uncurated collection. And I thought, how better to serve my university and serve the research community than by opening this wealth of privately held materials.
Given your current charge, are you sure that that's wise?
Whether or not it's wise is something time will tell, but certainly it's gotten the university access, hasn't it? The result is more important than the eventual consequence.
I can only assume that the knowledge that this brings will be no doubt beneficial. I am more concerned for you.
In what way?
This mirror, this gangster, for lack of a better word, it seems it's very dangerous, and you have already opened yourself up to so much danger by taking this grimoire as your charge. You haven't even taken your exam yet.
Perhaps I can do that soon before I leave the campus. I know those things need done, but sometimes you just have to approach a situation with what's needed, and sometimes you're called upon to do things that push you beyond your comfort zone. A friend of mine told me that.
Seems like an interesting friend, I'm sure. Anyhow, I'm trying to make sure the Telmeric court remains abreast of developments. I assume that you'll keep me in the loop?
Of course. Is there a way of communicating with you more directly?
Well, I've actually tried to send you a message several times. For whatever reason, it wasn't reaching you.
Interesting. I'm positive that's not working due to some spell work that's currently ongoing to protect us from, well, the group of people I was traveling with. You may remember them?
Yes, the apostate I remember very vividly, and both apostates, I should say, and the Weaver.
Yes. Well, the apostate is wanted dead by some faction of the Undersling, and I don't know, I can't pertain to know much about the underworld of this city, but certainly one favor we were granted was a period of time where we couldn't be found.
I'm learning so much I never thought would be true about you. To be honest,
a lot has changed in not so much time.
You might... Well, maybe one day you'd make a very excellent Veshtad agent.
I still like to think that there was one time that I was almost tested. I never was able to prove it, but...
Maybe it has your opportunity hasn't come, but speaking of tests, if you're on campus and you feel prepared, we can administer the test whenever you like.
Yes, I think perhaps before I go, it would make sense to... I know that I was sent a take-home exam, which was very kind of the Telmeric Court to grant. But as I'm here, I may as well do it the traditional way, in a lecture hall with a proctor and a time limit.
Very well. And, when would you be taking the exam, just so we can plan?
Perhaps tomorrow. I would want a little bit of time to study, but I don't anticipate leaving anytime soon, so...
Do you think a night is sufficient?
I think so, with my formidable studying skill.
Very well. Well, I will make the arrangements, but again, be careful, cautious. This is uncharted territory for many of us, and more to the point, don't forget your own responsibilities, the ones that you've undertaken.
I won't. You know that I want to make sure the Telmeric court knows my first loyalty and, well, only home is here.
And if you spot any mirrors, I am dead serious. If you spot any more of those things in the campus, you have to tell me or any other member of the Parasad. They're very dangerous.
Is there more documentation as to how long this mirror virus has been around? Or where the people go who disappear?
I think that if we do have any information, it's more so available to Grand Maguses. But I will do my best to see if I can perhaps requisition some materials while you are still here.
That would be very helpful. I also found a document in King Nine's library, which I would like to share with the Grand Magus, pertaining to the mirror virus. It was a journal of immunology, a doctor that seemed to have an encounter with the virus. See, this is the kind of information exchange which we'll all benefit from when our different libraries are united.
Well, color me pleasantly surprised. And we are going to smash cut there. Twig, what are you doing? Are you making your way back to the safe house?
No, somewhat. I couldn't. I don't know whether you planned this or not. I don't think they know that Garver's is where I hung out with the Rye.
No, they do not.
Not at all.
So I'm actually. That's where I just got dumped off outside there.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Great.
Which is kind
Who
of.
Who doesn't believe in coincidences?
Is this happening just as Gav finishes saying there are no coincidences?
Yeah,
They're together.
Yeah.
I've kind of been low-key dying this whole time because I'm like, I don't think did you guys even have access to that? Yeah, you don't.
No, I mean,
No.
Maurice had lunch with the Rye there the other day. That's why he went there.
So that's the whole thing. That's somebody I have a contact with outside of the on an external channel. So that's fucking weird, but okay.
Well,
Zach, you glorious bastard.
For all of our audience, we have been writing our development mode scenes, and one of which actually Garver's Café and Twig's exploration of the Tollesbury district figured prominently, and we'll be making those available via YouTube links fairly soon.
Yeah, that's a creepy level of coincidence, though.
But it is with this coincidence that, as I believe Maurice and Gav are finishing their breakfast, I think you make your way in.
Yep, just pop in, and so Twig. I don't even think Twig notices. Like Twig assumes that you will not be there because why the fuck would you be there?
Your perception's, I would say, pretty high. You're on high alert, and not only that, what color is the shock of your hair?
The hair,
now, Twig.
Right now, I think in anticipation of dark green with brown roots.
Yeah,
just feeling very planty.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're kind of walking in, your hair kind of bobs a little bit, and I think that almost in response, your feathers also perk up, Gavriel, as you recognize Twig striding into Garver's.
There are no coincidences. They're just all threads in a... Oh, Hashem.
And Maurice looks over, his jaw drops, and Duncan runs over to you and hops up and starts pawing at your knees.
Twig's just Duncan is definitely the first thing Twig notices, and it's just like, oh, hey buddy,
Point.
And then looks up and is just like,
yeah, it's very Planet of the like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the modern one with Donald. And because we are running late with this very coincidental reunion,
Creepily coincidental.
Creepily coincidental.
Good timing all around.
We're going to call this one an episode.
Ah!
So we're at 8:05 now. Do we have time for 5-minute rundowns
Sure
for everybody?
do.
Yep. Okay. So with that in mind, Gavriel, how'd you feel about the episode?
Pretty damn good. I think Gav realized some hard truths, went through some rough stuff, and is coming out the other side of it with a plan, at least a quarter of a plan.
Love it. Go ahead and count 1 joy for yourself.
Wait, is it possible to have more than a quarter of a plan?
I don't know. This is how I live my life.
Yeah. Wow.
I've never heard of anybody having more than a quarter of a plan.
Yeah.
4/5 of a plan.
Those people aren't real.
One other thing I was gonna say is for Gavriel, did you do any significant work on your character arc?
100% I did, because my story arc is still righting a past wrong and uncovering a secret.
Okay, so take 1 acumen for that, and I think we're gonna hit if once you hit like a significant milestone there in terms of like uncovering another bit of information, we're gonna count that as an additional acumen. Woo! But just not this week. Next time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So that's 1 joy and 1 acumen.
Mm-hmm. Twig, how'd you feel about today's episode?
Oh, this was a wild ride, but overwhelmingly positive. Outside of like the weird amount of interactions I had with the Twig was like, not thrilled with my their interactions with Thrall and King 9 necessarily. I think it's a little bit too cat talking to a mouse type dealio. And then also there's like a weird vibe. I think Twig's a little bit on shaky ground about their own morality and how they fit into the world. So that was uncomfortable. Other than that, like from start to finish, like this just went great. Like I've got a little crane buddy, like pastries, got to where we were going. I walked in and I found the people. Like, yeah, this is great. Today went great. Everything's fine.
And just for the sake of flavor, I'm going to turn another card because you sent so many psychic missives. Oh, this is actually really great. The last card I would have pulled is the Monarch, which is the sovereign of notions, cats, clocks, and wind. So that's a very good card. Everybody did. I think that that's a good way to kind of end it, but at the same time, going to continue with our session recaps. Kyrrie, how did you feel about the session? Oh, by the way, Twig, take 1 joy and 1 acumen.
I did nothing on either of my arcs, I don't think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you definitely get 1 acumen for having that self-realization while, and also for kind of exploring meeting Nalakander.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrrie, how'd you feel about the session?
Well, I feel like, interestingly enough, Kyrrie has suddenly kind of found this confidence and take charge attitude, and is like being very brusque about a lot of things, but it's really grounded in despair. Like this confidence has come from this place of like, not only was I abandoned by these 2 people, but then when I tried to reach out, which was very difficult, to reconnect with one of them in a way that has a lot of history, that person wouldn't even come. And so I think that has really jaded Kyrrie a little bit in terms of trying to reconnect with people. And that despair, I think, has kind of lit a fire under her to say, you know what, I'm just, the person I can trust is me, and I'm going to see this thing through.
Absolutely. So take 1 despair, take 1 acumen for your exchange of information with King 9. Did you do any work on your character arc?
Grimoire is still safe, but haven't investigated further on that. And then overarching investigation of my research stuff, not so much, but making progress, I think, potentially next week, depending on what I'm able to turn up out of the materials gathered.
Excellent. So take just the 1 acumen for that and the 1 despair. And finally, Maurice, how'd you feel about the session today?
So Maurice, playing detective, had some success. And I think he thought he navigated that better than he expected himself to. And reuniting with Gav was good, and even though he freaked out a little bit, I think the ensuing conversation they had, what she shared about her trip to the Gray, and him kind of getting realigned back to realizing that the group is important, and then Twig showing up would be a joy, I think, all by itself. Right. So Maurice is doing pretty great.
Yeah, so I think that you also made a additional bit of work on your character arc for.
Yeah, I think it's the investigation step for sure.
So take one acumen for doing all of your investigation. Take actually 2 acumen, one for the kind of like the step of that. And then finally take 1 joy for reuniting with the other 2 vislae. So guys, I think that unless anybody has anything to plug, coming up, guys, we've got some really exciting stuff on the channel, namely that we are going to be doing Mana Pot Happy Hour, which is going to be a series of one-shots of different systems, maybe little mini series or what we call flights, and we are going to start working on some really cool stuff. Yours truly might end up doing another another mini series at one point, and then at the same time we also have coming up our new Monster Heart series debuting probably in a few weeks, some of whom on this cast are actually going to be part of that cast as well.
Resident apostates.
You guys are going to be joining our resident apostates for the School of Evil and Good, a Monster Hearts 2 mini series or ongoing series from Chris Crifu, who's going to be the GM for that, and that's going to be pretty great. Unless does anybody have any other last things to plug or say before we sign off for tonight?
Everybody continue to stay safe and healthy out there.
And at home,
Yes,
if you can.
stay home.
Stay home.
Don't get the mirror virus.
Yeah, don't get the mirror virus.
Viruses, everybody.
Yeah, don't. I was gonna say, everybody practice responsible social distancing. Be safe, be healthy, and most importantly, I hope that the invisible sun shines on you all. Good night.